Chapter 4104. Very good. Sun Jian nods. The devil race is powerful. Although the Devil Emperor's doppelganger has been killed by Jinren Shao with a thunderous strike, his true body has yet to be revealed. Although we can't judge that the Devil Emperor is on the southwest border, our two sects should join forces to rush out of the Devil Formation and then go to rescue the Soft Sound Palace. What? Bai Shan was shocked. He looked at Xiao Hua in disbelief. The Devil Emperor's avatar was killed by Taoist Shao? Yes, not only was the Devil Emperor's avatar killed, but the 4 devil monarchs surrounding the White Cloud Monastery were also killed. Now, it's much easier for us to break out. Xiao Hua said, but, Temple Master Bai, if we break out, what will happen to your White Cloud Monastery's foundation? Yes, Senior knows. Bai Shan hurriedly explained. The devil race mainly devours the flesh and blood of cultivators. The White Cloud Monastery's foundation is just rubble in their eyes. It won't be too late for us to return after they retreat. Good. Xiao Hua nodded. We'll do as Temple Master Bai says. We'll rush out of the Devil Array and hide from the Devil Emperor. Subsequently, Sun Jian and Bai Shan discussed for a while. Bai Shan left Bai Ming to assist Sun Jian while he brought Bai Shui and charged into the Devil Array behind the White Cloud Monastery. When Bai Shan's figure charged through the blood-red light, Xiao Hua clearly saw that the radiance around Bai Shan's body had dimmed. The Dao Gate of the Ruins is similar to the hidden immortal mainland's Confucian cultivation realm. They both cultivate the primordial spirit, but they don't seem to restrain the devil race like the Confucian cultivation realm. Xiao Hua muttered inwardly, the Dao Gate of the Ruins cultivator's cultivation technique seems to be not worth the loss. The lightning boat obeyed Sun Jian's order and stopped charging into the devil array. It stopped in midair. Lightning overflowed from the lightning boat. Not only did it kill the devil race that came to snatch the lightning boat, but it also formed a lightning immortal array with the Fortune Gate disciples nearby, protecting them. Bai Ming, who was standing beside Sun Jian, looked at the lightning boat for a moment. Envy appeared in his eyes as he asked in a low voice, General Sun, what material is this flying boat made of? Why does it have such lightning power? What kind of great formation is this lightning formation? Why is it so powerful? This flying boat is called the Lightning Boat, and it was personally refined by our Fortune Gate's chief, Taoist Shao. Sun Jian proudly said. This grand formation is called the Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation, and it was also taught by Taoist Shao. The Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation? Bai Ming sucked in a breath of cold air and said in surprise, General Sun, are you talking about the Kunlun sect's sect protection array? Sun Tian smiled and said, whether or not it is the Kunlun sect's sect protecting formation is not something that I can know. Fellow Immortal Bai, you still have to ask my Taoist Shao. Taoist Master? Bai Ming turned around and bowed without hesitation. Junior was reckless. Although I don't know if this Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation is Kunlun sect's great sect protecting formation, this Junior still wishes to earnestly ask Senior, if possible, could you bestow this formation to us? If we have this immortal formation, our Baiyun sect, no, the hundreds of sects in the ruins will no longer fear the invasion of the devil race. Back then, 10 devil emperors led hundreds of millions of devil soldiers to besiege Mount Kunlun, but Mount Kunlun did not send any troops to face the enemy. Just this Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation alone killed 2 devil emperors and 5 million devil soldiers, forcing the devil emperors to flee in panic. This. Xiao Hua was a bit hesitant. To be honest, after 20,000 years of bitter cultivation, although he did not focus on the innate divine restriction in his Naiwan palace, after the battle with Sun Hao and the others, the innate divine restriction had gradually become clearer, and Xiao Hua had also comprehended a lot in these years. He had already comprehended the Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation completely, so it was not a big deal to give it to Baiyun sect. However, this was an innate divine restriction after all. How could Xiao Hua just give it away like that? Baiyun sect might not treasure something that could be obtained without paying a price. However, how could the current Xiao Hua be compared to Zhang Xiao Hua, who did not know how to speak in the past? He hesitated slightly, then took out a jade slip and said with a smile, Indeed, although the Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formation is precious, compared to Baiyun sect's foundation and the lives of the Dao sect's cultivators in the ruins, it is nothing. I am willing to give this formation to Baiyun sect, but this old man hopes that Baiyun sect can only use it as a sect protection formation and cannot teach it to disciples or others. Of course. Bai Ming was overjoyed and said tactfully, "My Baiyun sect is not the kind of sect that does not know how to repay kindness. Senior, please hold on to this jade slip first. When senior brother sect master comes, this junior will ask senior brother to exchange the precious treasures of Baiyun sect. There is no need for precious treasures." Xiao Hua smiled as he passed the jade slip to Bai Ming and said, "Your Baiyun sect has many disciples, and they also need those treasures. My Fortune Gate's disciples will not compete with Baiyun sect's Taoist friends for these resources. This old man likes to study Tao techniques the most. If you have the heart, you can let this old man take a look at Baiyun sect's cultivation techniques." Taoist. Bai Ming held the jade slip that was still warm, and tears almost flowed out of his eyes. This Tao sect senior in front of him was so powerful that he couldn't see through his depth at all. How could this senior lack any cultivation techniques? He said this to give Baiyun sect an excuse to accept the Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formation with face. Otherwise, how could Xiao Hua put the Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formation's jade slip into his hands before he even got anything to exchange? Looking at Bai Ming's expression, Xiao Hua knew that Bai Ming had understood his meaning. Bai Ming was indeed worthy of being called Bai Ming. He smiled and waved his hand, saying, "There is no need for this, let us escape first." "No." Taoist. Bai Ming resolutely raised his hand and took out a simple and unadorned jade slip from his bosom. He respectfully handed it to Xiao Hua and said, "This is the cultivation technique that this junior practices. I'm afraid it can't be compared to my Baiyun sect's Dao techniques. However, please take this jade slip first. As for the rest, when my senior brother sect master comes, this junior will risk his life to ask senior brother sect master to let him take a look at the Dao techniques." Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What did he want Bai Ming's cultivation technique for? What he wanted was the Baiyun sect's Dao techniques. He waved his hand and said, "Bai Ming, this old man isn't the kind of person to take advantage of a burning house. You should keep this cultivation technique for now." "No." Bai Ming was even more resolute. "This is Junior's determination. If Senior doesn't accept it, Junior won't accept Senior's formation." "All right." Xiao Hua was somewhat helpless. He reached out to take it and casually placed it in his bosom. At this moment, Bai Ming raised his eyebrows as if he was listening attentively. After a few breaths, he also put away his jade eyes and hurriedly called out, "General Sun, senior brother sect master has sent a message. All the disciples of my Baiyun sect are coming out in full force. General, please give the order to charge into the demonic formation." "All right." At the head of the shop, Sun Jian looked around with confidence. He raised his hand and took out a small flag. He waved it and said, "Disciples, charge into the demonic formation." As the small flag was waved, rhythmic lightning appeared on the thunder ship again. It began to rumble as it was activated. The 90,000 disciples understood the military order and similarly activated their magic power, charging into the demonic formation. The lightning radiant fruit was the nemesis of the demonic formation. Amidst the rumbling sounds, the thunder ship tore through the blood waterfall just like before and went deeper into the demonic formation. Through the gap in the demonic formation, Xiao Hua and the others could see that on top of a majestic mountain, there were hundreds and thousands of palaces. There were wisps of white clouds above the palaces, but they had already been shattered. Above the white clouds, a dozen flying ships that were not inferior to the thunder ships slowly flew out. However, these flying ships were in the shape of white clouds and didn't seem to be fast. What was special was that when the flying ships reached the demonic formation, the demonic clan's blood-red light had already torn apart the flying ships' white clouds. "Taoist Xiao," Bai Ming hurriedly said, "Previously, my Baiyun sect's disciples also wanted to use the flying ships to destroy the demonic formation. Unfortunately, my Baiyun sect's flying ships are not as fierce as the Fortune Gate's lightning ships. In the end, they failed on the verge of success. At this time, I beseech seniors to help my Baiyun sect's disciples escape. In fact, Xiaohua was also anxious. Previously, he had killed that unknown Devil Emperor's clone without saying a word. Who knew when that Devil Emperor would arrive here? With just the Baiyun sect's disciples and Fortune Gate's disciples, it would take a lot of time to break this demonic formation. Xiaohua didn't want to stay here for too long. All right. Xiaohua nodded and raised his hand. Fellow Taoists, it's time for us to act. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can go home and eat. Ha! Dragon Vein Xiaohua laughed loudly and said, as you wish. With that said, the green-robed Xiaohua, Dragon Vein Xiaohua, Bone Tempering Xiaohua, and Phoenix Body Xiaohua all rushed into the demonic array formation and stood several hundred miles behind the lightning ship. Xiaohua followed them and landed below the lightning ship, forming a pentagonal formation. Dragon Vein Xiaohua chanted in the dragon language and his hands formed a seal. A clear golden dragon mark appeared about 100 li away from him. A dragon's roar and tiger's roar came from the void. Then, the dragon mark soared into the sky with Dragon Vein Xiaohua's seal and turned into a huge dragon. It circled in the sky and roared as it charged towards the demonic formation that was torn apart by the lightning ship. Wherever the dragon passed, the demonic chi was swept away. The demonic soldiers and demonic generals were also smashed into pieces. However, the demonic array was too powerful. The dragon couldn't penetrate it completely. A huge whirlpool appeared near the thunder ship. Bone Tempering Xiaohua was even more mysterious. He placed his hands in front of his chest, and it seemed as though his hands were flashing with 3 different colors. It seemed as though he was punching and kicking. Break! Bone Tempering Xiaohua shouted. As though there was an opponent in front of him, he clenched his hands into fists and punched forward. Woo! The 3 waves condensed into a barrier that was 100 li in size. It carried a tricolored halo and rushed into the demonic formation. Wherever the waves passed, most of the devil chi was destroyed. Even more devils were crushed into powder. Similarly, a huge vortex appeared on the other side of the lightning ship. Phoenix Physique Xiaohua raised his head and let out a long cry. The 3 suns and the faint outline of the moon world suddenly lit up and released the power of the stars and moon that was hard to see with the naked eye. The majestic power of the stars and moon shrouded Phoenix Physique Xiaohua. Woo! Phoenix Physique Xiaohua waved his hands just like Bone Tempering Xiaohua. 2 winged phantoms that were several hundred li in size appeared out of thin air. As the wings danced, the power of the stars and moon like a flood rushed towards the demonic formation with a desolate aura. The devil chi was turned into dust by the power of the stars and moon. The demonic soldiers and generals were killed. Even the bloodlight in the blood formation was wiped clean. A huge crack was torn open by Phoenix Physique Xiaohua. Chapter 4105. Seeing Phoenix Body Xiaohua's means so powerful, green-robed Xiaohua was somewhat unwilling to be outdone. He had just been sneak attacked by the Demon Emperor's clone and almost fell into the enemy's hands. He had lost all his face. Now, he rubbed his hands and waved his Taoist robe. Hundreds of lightning bolts condensed into a huge sphere, and the heaven and earth origin energy within 1,000 miles crazily poured in. Rumble! The lightning bolts were like crazy beasts, roaring, biting, and pouncing on the demonic array. Green-robed Xiaohua desperately wanted to break the demonic array. Xiaohua, who was below the thunder ship, smiled slightly and similarly let out a dragon roar. He raised his hand and threw the Kunlun mirror into the air. Then he formed a seal with both hands. The flickering light of the dragon pattern emitted from his hands and fell on the Kunlun mirror. Along with the activation of a secret technique similar to the dragon language, the Kunlun mirror emitted a 5-colored brilliance. As soon as the brilliance appeared, it was as dazzling as the sun. Within the brilliance, a thumb-sized crystal ball rotated at an extremely fast speed. Go! Xiaohua straightened his arms and pushed them out. The true yuan around his body slowly fell into the Kunlun mirror. Along with Xiaohua's light shout, the Kunlun mirror issued a rumbling sound. The space within 100 miles of Xiaohua was shaking. Then, a light beam several times stronger than before rushed out of the Kunlun mirror and disappeared into the void. The nearby void seemed to be boiling, and countless indescribable fluctuations flew out. Rumble! In a few breaths, the five-colored light beam appeared near the thunder ship and crashed into the demonic array. It really connected the vortexes and cracks created by green-robed Xiaohua, dragon vein Xiaohua, bone-tempering Xiaohua, and phoenix body Xiaohua. The entire world seemed to be shaking. The demonic array was hit by Xiaohua's 4 clones and a gap of several hundred miles was created. The demonic energy, bloodlight, and demons within 100 miles were all turned into ashes. There was no trace of them. Only the flickering lightning of the thunder ship and the misty clouds of the dozen or so white cloud ships could be seen. Go quickly! Seeing Xiaohua's great power, Sun Jian's face did not have the slightest trace of surprise. He raised his hand and the small flag that commanded the 3 armies was taken out again. Then, the rhythm of the thunder ship changed again. The thunder ship didn't have any intention of changing its direction and immediately retreated to the back. The dozen or so white cloud ships also followed behind the thunder ship and rushed toward the outer layer of the demonic array. Although the innumerable devils who were repelled by Xiaohua were unable to stop Xiaohua and the others, they were unable to stop the fearless devils. As soon as the thunder ship retreated, the devils rushed over like a tide, intending to block the thunder ship and the white cloud ship. However, by the time the demon race arrived, the thunderbolt had already reached the outer layer of the demon array. The outer layer of the demonic array was incomparable to the inner layer of the demonic array that surrounded the white cloud sect. The thunderbolt had already broken through it once. Now that the thunderbolt was here, the demonic array was like a piece of paper. It only lasted for a moment before the thunderbolt broke through. Kill! Seeing the thunderbolt break through the demonic array, the White Cloud sect's disciples didn't even wait for the Fortune Gate's disciples to cheer. The White Cloud sect's disciples who had been suppressing their emotions for more than 10 days were released in an instant. Their passion for survival reached its peak. All the White Cloud sect's disciples circulated their magic power and attacked the demonic array in a frenzy. Under the powerful attacks of the White Cloud Monastery disciples, not only were thousands and tens of thousands of devils killed, even the demonic formation was completely destroyed. Although the dozen or so White Cloud boats were moving slowly, they still managed to charge out of the bloody light. The dozen or so flying ships immediately displayed their speed when they rushed out of the demonic array. Lightning flashed, and white clouds drifted. In a few breaths' time, they had already crossed several dozen li. The devils were like flies chasing after a swarm of bees, but they were still lagging behind. Ha! On the White Cloud ship, the White Cloud sect's sect master Bai Shan laughed heartily. He cupped his fists at Xiaohua and said, "Many thanks, Senior Xiao." At this time, Xiaohua released his divine sense to alert the surroundings. When he saw Bai Shan thanking him, he smiled faintly. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. He abruptly turned his head and looked into the distance. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission. "The Devil Emperor is attacking, quickly leave." As soon as Xiaohua's voice rang out, a black flame shot out from the distance, covering the entire world. This black flame was like the fury of a Devil Emperor, burning fiercely. However, the strange thing was that under this black flame, within a range of 10,000 miles, layers of icy cold waves rushed over like toppling mountains and overturning seas. The White Cloud ship that couldn't escape in time was about to be frozen. Xiaohua sneered, waved his hands, and hundreds of crystal lights disappeared into the void. Rumble. Within a range of several thousand miles behind the White Cloud ship and the Thunder ship, layers of thunderbolts appeared. This thunderbolts blocked the oncoming cold waves. Amidst the booming sounds, the frozen domain was crushed. Amidst the violent airflow, the Thunder ship and the White Cloud ship were lifted high up into the air, drifting far away. So it's a Dao Gates expert. This emperor is really surprised. A sneer that sounded like an owl's came from the cold. Not to mention the group of Fortune Gates disciples, even Xiaohua and his avatars felt their blood boil, and their hearts beat rapidly. Gradually, from the source of the voice, A black speck like a devil shadow grew to several thousand zhang in size in the blink of an eye. It flew over. Black flames danced around the devil shadow, and a momentum that could annihilate all living things rushed over. Devil Emperor! Xiaohua looked at the devil shadow rushing over, and a familiar devil sense fell on his body. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked around. Magic power surged around his body, and the world's origin energy whistled into his body. In a flash of brilliance, Xiaohua's figure grew rapidly, and he also turned into a 10,000 zhang tall avatar. He held the wishful staff in his hand and blocked the attack in midair. Xiaohua stood in midair, and several of his avatars also stood nearby. Dragon Vein Xiaohua revealed the body of a 5-clawed true dragon, and his imposing manner was majestic. Bone-tempering Xiaohua snorted coldly and revealed his desolate figure, clenching his fists and looking coldly. Phoenix Body Xiaohua spread his wings, and his phoenix body bloomed with 5-colored brilliance, and his pair of phoenix eyes emitted a cold light. The green-robed Xiaohua was even more arrogant, and a 10,000 zhang tall thunderbolt appeared, as if he was indomitable, standing straight in the air. Sure enough, you have some skill. The Devil Emperor revealed his figure, and it was similar to the avatar that was killed by Xiaohua before. It looked a little strange, but where his eyes were previously like bloody holes, an indescribable brilliance appeared, just like the eyes of a human. He stared at Xiaohua and his several avatars, and a somewhat hoarse voice came out from those big mouth-like holes. Xiaohua and his 4 avatars revealed their imposing manner, and 5 of them pressured the Devil Emperor. However, the Devil Emperor's body was surrounded by black flames like a ribbon, indifferently fluttering, as if he was not affected by this imposing manner. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked at the Devil Emperor, his mind turning rapidly. Previously, the Devil Emperor did not appear, and only one of his avatars blocked the attacks of the green-robed Xiaohua and the soul cultivator Xiaohua. If he did not rely on the Devil Blade, and took advantage of the fact that the Devil Emperor's avatar was not completely revealed, he was afraid that he would have suffered a great loss. However, now that the Devil Emperor's main body had come personally, and before they even fought, he had already shown his strength. How should he deal with it? This Devil Emperor seems to be just a Devil Emperor, and has not set foot into the Devil Venerable realm. But his strength is far from an ordinary Devil Emperor. He should be an existence that surpasses the 9th grade of elemental energy. Xiaohua pondered, this realm is higher than the hidden immortal continent, and the strength of the devil race is also correspondingly higher. Although this Xiao already has the strength of a 9th grade of elemental energy, it seems that I am not a match for him. I can only use my wits. Gee. Xiaohua had just made up his mind when the Devil Emperor sneered again. The black flames around his body soared into the sky, and when they fell again, they actually divided into 5 and rushed towards Xiaohua and the others. The 5 black flames were like 5 huge black pythons, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws fiercely, giving birth to a suffocating, imposing manner, completely enveloping Xiaohua's golden body. Traces of indescribable coldness pierced into Xiaohua's body like steel needles, and Xiaohua felt that his entire golden body was imprisoned, making it difficult for him to mobilize his magic power. Open! Xiaohua and his doppelganger roared in unison. Xiaohua's divine sense was like a hammer, falling like a star. The wishful staff was swung up, smashing towards the black pythons. The green-robed Xiaohua waved his hands, and a thunderbolt like a flying sword slashed out, crashing into the mouth of the black flames. The dragon vein Xiaohua, the bone-tempering Xiaohua, and the phoenix body Xiaohua also urged their divine abilities to meet the black flames. Woo! In the roar, the 5 black flames were blocked, like a tide hitting a reef. A burst of flames soared into the sky, as if covering the sky and covering the sun, surrounding Xiaohua and his doppelganger. And when these flames calmed down a little, Xiaohua and his doppelganger could no longer see any brilliance within a few thousand miles, and the scenery had also disappeared. What Xiaohua could see with his naked eyes was only pitch-black darkness and the devil flame that seemed to have some light in the darkness. Blood-dripping paradise? Xiaohua's divine sense swept out, and when his divine sense touched the devil flame that seemed to be everywhere in the air, he immediately had a feeling of being swallowed. Xiao Hua sneered in his heart, "I am afraid this is the power of the Devil Emperor's domain. Even if it is not the blood-dripping paradise, it should be close. Looks like this Devil Emperor is rather scheming, wanting to use the Devil Flame's attack as an opportunity to trap us. But how could he know that this Xiao did not intend to escape? What this Xiao wants to do is to kill this bastard." Ha! While Xiao Hua was pondering, the Devil Emperor laughed loudly. This emperor took advantage of the chaos to sneak attack the 10 sects of the southwest. This emperor originally wanted to collect more souls, but I really did not expect that such a secret information would be leaked. It attracted so many experts of the Dao sect. Looks like, this time, this emperor is destined to return with a full harvest. At first, the Devil Emperor's voice was still somewhat hoarse, and his words were mixed with the devil language. Xiao Hua could not hear clearly, but after a few sentences, the Devil Emperor actually used the human language, and it was much more fluent. "For you, this emperor has been trapped in the ruins for so long, how come I have never seen such a strange cultivator like you?" After saying a few sentences, the Devil Emperor actually asked about Xiao Hua's origins. Xiao Hua sneered, looked around and replied, "Senior, do you think that this old man has become a fish on the chopping block after being trapped in your devil blood-dripping paradise? You are only a devil emperor, not a devil venerable." Chapter 4106. Haha. The demon emperor laughed out loud, and the demonic blood in the entire paradise shook. Within a few thousand miles, countless demons poked their heads out from the demonic blood and laughed eerily. "Little kid, your words are really funny. This emperor has never heard of a human cultivator who dares to speak so calmly in front of this emperor. Don't think that you have the strength to fight this emperor just because you've reached the Dao actualization realm. In the eyes of my devil race, you humans are nothing more than food. Nothing more." At this point, the Devil King's laughter came to an abrupt stop. A huge eye strangely spat out from the Devil King's eye. The eye was blood red, and there were tens of thousands of smaller eyes gathered together. The eye stared at Xiao Hua for a moment. Xiao Hua felt a bone-piercing coldness all over his body, as if the eye could see through him. The Devil King's somewhat puzzled voice rang out. "Even Mo Lianxi, Lu Wuxie, and Yun Che can't recognize this devil blood grotto. How do you know? No wonder you could kill this emperor's avatar. Which sect are you from? How can this emperor's name be spoken so easily?" The Devil King sneered. "Besides, a despicable human like you doesn't deserve to hear this emperor's name." Haha. The tiny devils within the countless black flames let out strange laughter. The entire devil blood grotto was filled with fluctuations that constantly attacked Xiao Hua's mind and soul. However, whether it was Xiao Hua or his 4 avatars, the area within 100 kilometers of them was covered by their own domains. The fluctuations disappeared without a trace after entering their domains. They were unable to harm them at all. However, this aura was so monstrous that it firmly suppressed Xiao Hua's heart. "Humans are food in your eyes, but you are a pile of blood in this old man's eyes." Xiao Hua smiled faintly. "Fighting with you is really dirtying my hands." Woo woo. When the Devil Emperor heard this, layers of black light appeared in its huge eyes. It let out a whimper and pierced toward Xiao Hua. Wherever the black light passed, the entire space was torn apart. Countless devils rushed in, and an endless amount of bloody light overflowed. The Demon Emperor is nothing more than this. Xiao Hua was already waiting to make his move. When he saw the black light surging towards him, he waved his hand and the Kunlun mirror appeared in midair. As he cast a spell, his surrounding mana surged into the Devil Emperor's cave. The Devil Emperor's Devil Blood Cave was more than 100 times stronger than Ji Peng's Blood Drop Cave. Buzz! The Kunlun mirror emitted a blinding light as a light pillar rushed out, transforming into a 100-mile-wide light tide that rushed towards the black light. However, the might of this light pillar was clearly not as powerful as before. Moreover, although the omnipresent black flames were destroyed by the light pillar was also exhausted and became increasingly dim. Boom! When the three-colored light pillar rushed into the black light, it did not cause too much of an impact. The black light was immediately destroyed by the Kunlun mirror. Moreover, the three-colored light pillar went against the flow and rushed towards the Devil Emperor's bloody eye. The Devil Emperor was clearly stunned. He hurriedly waved his devil palm, and thousands of ripples emerged from the Devil Blood Grotto heaven and landed in front of the light pillar. Rumble! Countless devils rushed out, and the blood light and devil chi burst out from the light pillar. In just a moment, the light pillar of the Kunlun mirror was completely destroyed. At this moment, the light pillar was still some distance away from the Devil Emperor. Xiao Hua sighed in his heart. He knew that although he was a Mahayana realm cultivator and had the strength to pass the tribulation, he was still far from the Devil Emperor in the ruins. It was not only because of his strength, but also because of the difference in the environment. Even if he had cultivated for 20,000 years, he was no different from a child in the eyes of the Devil Emperor. Not to mention that during those 20,000 years, there were many times when he could not cultivate at all. As Xiao Hua sighed, the pressure on the Kunlun mirrors suddenly increased. Moreover, an indescribable suction force appeared from the nearby grotto heavens. Xiao Hua's heart tightened and he thought to himself, in this devil blood cave, this Xiao's magic treasure is probably not useful. I don't want to be tricked by this Devil Emperor. This Xiao's Kunlun mirror will be taken away by him. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua hurriedly kept the Kunlun mirror. Then, lightning surged around his body and his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Looking at the bone-honing Xiao Hua and the other doppelgangers, they also used their divine abilities and abandoned their magic treasures to pounce towards the Devil Emperor. Oh! The Devil Emperor was stunned, and then he waved his demonic palms. Countless vortexes appeared in the space of 500 kilometers around him, and blood-red light and devil chi surged once more. Swoosh! Xiao Hua's golden body flew out from the devil chi and let out a long breath. It seemed as if it had dived out from deep water. Then, without stopping, he waved his arms and legs and used the Fist of the North Star to attack the Devil Emperor. The wind from his fists was like a hurricane, and the wind from his legs was like a star, tearing the Devil Blood Cave apart. Good! When the Devil Emperor saw this, he couldn't help but shout, "You humans always say that newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. This emperor has never seen a human fight a devil with his fists." As he spoke, the Devil Emperor waved his demonic palms as well, and his figure swayed as he fought with Xiao Hua. One was a human, the other was a devil. One had a 10,000 zhang long golden body, the other had a 10,000 zhang long demonic body. One could flatten mountains with his fists, while the other's demonic palms could shatter stars. In just a moment, the space within 500 kilometers was completely filled with fist winds. The devil chi and the golden light collided, causing the Devil Blood Cave to shake violently. Rumbling sounds were constantly heard. Although there were no magic treasures, the collision between the golden body and the demonic body was not inferior to that of magic treasures. Woo! Bone-honing Xiao Hua rushed forward and waved his fists as well. Like a meteor, he rushed into the battle and cooperated with Xiao Hua to surround the Devil Emperor. The Devil Emperor was already shocked, and seeing bone-honing Xiao Hua join in, he cried out in shock, "How do you know, my Devil Realm's great heavenly cycle star fist?" No. In just a moment, the Devil Emperor cried out again, "This is not the great heavenly cycle star fist." Xiao Hua snorted and said, "A frog in a well. This is called the Fist of the North Star. Today, this old man will use the Big Dipper God Fist to challenge you, the Devil Emperor of the Devil race." While speaking, Dragon Vein Xiao Hua and Phoenix Body Xiao Hua also besieged. Although the two doppelgangers did not use their fists, one had a dragon body and the other a demonic body, so they were both incomparably tough. Taking advantage of the gaps, they either used their dragon claws or phoenix claws to attack, besieging the Devil Emperor. Devil chi surged around the Devil Emperor, and several arms grew out of his demonic body. He said proudly, "Even if you know my Devil Realm's great heavenly cycle star fist, so what? Let this emperor teach you what close combat is." Boom! While speaking, the Devil Emperor's figure flashed and strangely dodged Xiao Hua's fist. Then, a demonic palm stretched out from his back and pressed on Xiao Hua's arm. The moment the devil qi came into contact with Xiao Hua's golden body, it immediately exploded. Tens of zhang above Xiao Hua's golden body exploded into splashes of light, and strands of devil qi rushed into Xiao Hua's body like sharp swords, madly seeping into Xiao Hua's blood vessels. Xiao Hua, dragon vein Xiao Hua, and the other doppelgangers relied on their tempered bodies to fight the Devil Emperor, but the green-robed Xiao Hua was unable to do so. At the same time Xiao Hua was hit by the Devil Emperor, the lightning around the green-robed Xiao Hua's body was also shattered by a punch. When the demonic palm pressed on the green-robed Xiao Hua's body, the green-robed Xiao Hua's body began to boil and tremble, and his entire body began to collapse. The green-robed Xiao Hua was seriously injured, and Xiao Hua was even more shocked. He had cultivated the Heavenly Law's embodiment technique, but he was in such a sorry state. As he rapidly retreated, the blood drop paradise in his blood vessels was hurriedly activated, and the devil spirit Xiao Hua was barely able to swallow the devil qi. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Devil Emperor once again struck the bone-honing Xiao Hua with his demonic palm. Ha! The bone-honing Xiao Hua's body flashed with brilliance, and as he laughed, he advanced instead of retreating. A large foot suddenly stretched out from the light, and with a boom, it kicked the Devil Emperor's body. The Devil Emperor howled in pain, and like Xiao Hua, his figure rapidly retreated. Previously, he was looking at Xiao Hua with complacency, but now, a strange expression appeared in his eyes. Good opportunity. Seeing the Devil Emperor retreat, Dragon Vein Xiao Hua and Phoenix Body Xiao Hua suddenly attacked from the left and right. Xiao Hua secretly cheered in his heart, and taking advantage of this moment, his figure flashed again, instantly disappearing from where he was. When he reappeared, he had already passed through the flashing devil flames around the Devil Emperor, and was approaching the Devil Emperor's side. So! Xiao Hua waved his hand, and a golden light shot towards the Devil Emperor like lightning, covering a distance of several li in an instant. Kacha! The golden Tengjiao shears swung its dragon tail in midair and struck the Devil Emperor's body. The golden light descended from the demonic emperor's forehead and instantly streaked across the space between his eyebrows. Hiss! Under the golden light, the demonic marks on the demonic emperor's body began to rotate violently. Although a pitch-black mark appeared on the demonic emperor's body and broke the demonic marks, as the demonic marks spun rapidly, the demonic marks quickly recovered. The pitch-black mark also disappeared in an instant. Xiao Hua could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Damn it, isn't the tempering of this devil body too perverse? No wonder the Tao transformation cultivators of the hundreds of sects in the ruins could not defeat the Devil Emperor. Xiao Hua knew that his magic treasure could not break through the Devil Emperor's defense, and even his fists and feet might not be able to hurt the Devil Emperor. However, he never expected that the sharpest magic treasure among his magic treasures, the Tengjiao shears, would also fail. How can I escape? At this time, Xiao Hua was no longer thinking about how to kill the Devil Emperor. Instead, he was thinking about how to escape. Perhaps at this time, only the celestial white bones can be of some use. However, once the celestial white bones are used, whether it succeeds or not, I will be at the mercy of others. How can I dare to use it now? Ha! A puny human dares to have designs on my supreme devil body. You overestimate yourself. Seeing that Xiao Hua's magic treasure had no effect, the Devil Emperor laughed complacently. As he waved his arms, very strange devil weapons were taken out. One was like a long spear, and the other was like a demon-subduing pestle. As he waved them, a heavy aura assaulted Xiao Hua's face, as though it was heavier than Xiao Hua's wishful staff. Chapter 4107. While Xiao Hua was pondering, the Tengjiao scissors cut through the air, cutting hundreds of black flames in half with extreme sharpness. Finally, it fell into Xiao Hua's hand. Xiao Hua grabbed half of the Tengjiao scissors with his big hand. At the same time, the wishful steel staff also appeared in his hand. With a roar, he attacked the Devil Emperor. The wishful steel staff looked a little slender at this time, and it was somewhat uncoordinated in Xiao Hua's hand. Crackle! The wishful steel staff clashed with the spear, and Xiaohua fell into a disadvantage again. The Demon Emperor not only had exquisite moves, but his weapon was also heavier than Xiaohua's. Xiaohua's wishful steel staff couldn't get close at all. Even with Xiaohua's dragon body, the Demon Emperor's spear pierced his tail, and the two hard dragon scales cracked. However, compared to Xiaohua's shock, the Demon Emperor was even more surprised. He looked at Xiaohua's wishful steel staff in disbelief and said, "Huh? God punishment staff technique? You are the descendant of the demon race of my demon realm? How do you know both the great heavenly cycle star fist and the God punishment staff technique?" At this time, how could Xiaohua care about his surprise? Seeing that the wishful steel staff was useless, he began to look around, and his mind raced, thinking about what other means of escape he had. Unfortunately, the Demon Blood Wonderland seemed to be more powerful than the Blood Drop Wonderland. There was no gap in the domain. Xiaohua's illusion breaker eye opened a slit, and his eyes were full of blood red, and he couldn't see anything else. Maybe this is the only way. Xiaohua sighed slightly, and his figure moved, and his body surged with demon chi no less than the Demon Emperor's. Buzz. Demon Spirit Xiaohua appeared in the Demon Blood Wonderland. Similarly, Demon Spirit Xiaohua's body flashed with blood-red light, and the Blood Drop Wonderland also protected Demon Spirit Xiaohua. Demon Spirit Xiaohua appeared, and without a pause he waved his left hand, and the demon blade emitted 1,000 layers of demon chi mixed with countless blood-red light. The demon flame and demon head of the Demon Blood Wonderland were also sucked in by the demon blade. Seeing the demon blade cut the space in half and fall on the Demon Emperor's head, Xiaohua could see the panic and fear in the Demon Emperor's eyes with the naked eye. The Demon Emperor hurriedly raised his weapon to defend himself. Clang. Two loud clangs rang out. Although the demon saber failed to shatter the two demon artifacts, the unparalleled demonic force sent the Demon Emperor flying hundreds of kilometers away. Demon Spirit Xiaohua's attack was successful. Without hesitation, he once again turned into a strand of demon chi and chased down. The demon blade once again slashed out. As for Xiaohua, he hurriedly kept the heavily injured green-robed Xiaohua into his space. He also kept the dragon vein Xiaohua, bone-tempering Xiaohua, and phoenix body Xiaohua into his space and prepared to flee. Ha! Just then, the seemingly defeated Demon Emperor burst out laughing. "Human, oh human! You can't help but use slaughter in the end. Do you really think that your majesty doesn't know that those are your doppelgangers? Human, you're so childish." Xiaohua was taken aback. He immediately thought of a possibility. Could it be that those doppelgangers weren't completely devoured by the demon saber? Without waiting for Xiaohua to react, ghost-like wails and wolf-like howls resounded in the surroundings of the Demon Blood Wonderland. The place where the demon flame was before turned into small pitch-black holes. A powerful suction force was generated from those small holes. When this suction force landed on Xiaohua, it wasn't that powerful. However, when it landed on Demon Spirit Xiaohua's body, waves of demon chi came out of nowhere. Waves of pain, as if he was being cut into pieces, came from Demon Spirit Xiaohua. Demon Spirit Xiaohua let out a heart-wrenching howl. Although Demon Spirit Xiaohua was separated from Xiaohua's body and the pain couldn't be completely transmitted to Xiaohua's body, the apocalyptic terror of Demon Spirit Xiaohua was like a piece of black cloth covering Xiaohua's heart. Woo! Demon Spirit Xiaohua couldn't care less about killing Demon Emperor. His entire body turned into a pool of blood and wriggled violently in the air. In just a short moment, that pool of blood had shrunk by more than half. If it weren't for the faint flickering of golden threads in the pool of blood, this Demon Spirit Xiaohua would have been devoured by Demon Emperor long ago. Haha. You've only cultivated my demon realm's blood drop wonderland. How can such a low-level cultivation method be a match for your majesty? Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Demon chi was generated around Demon Spirit Xiaohua, which turned into a huge demon palm and grabbed at Demon Dao Slaughter. Your majesty gave you some benefits, and you really took out Demon Saber Slaughter. However, your majesty is curious. How could Slaughter, which has disappeared for millions of years, fall into the hands of a human? Ha! Your Majesty has obtained slaughter. Qiu Hong Demon Domain will be your Majesty's sooner or later. Facing the Demon Emperor's demon chi, demon spirit Xiao Hua didn't have the slightest bit of resistance. That pool of blood still couldn't form. As the demon palm descended, slaughter was snatched away from demon spirit Xiao Hua's hand without any suspense. That demon palm danced about, causing cracks to appear in the nearby void. Blood spurted out from these cracks like spring water, as if the demon saber had injured the space. Ha ha! Demon Emperor really laughed wildly. Another arm stretched out from under his armpit. That arm raised its hand and grabbed slaughter from the demon palm. However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Xiao Hua suddenly waved his left hand, and the slaughter that was originally controlled by the Devil Emperor's devil palm suddenly raised its blade, and with a swish, it horizontally chopped towards the Devil Monarch's chest. The demonic blade was like a black light of death that instantly landed on the demonic body. Under the demonic blade, the demonic patterns on the demonic body were immediately cut in half and collapsed piece by piece. The demonic body that Xiao Hua couldn't destroy before was destroyed by the black light. Demon Emperor was scared out of his wits. Almost without any hesitation, he rolled back like an iron bridge in an ordinary move. Shwa! The black light swept past. Demon Emperor's demon body, which was several zhang in size, was cut off. When that demon body left Demon Emperor, it immediately turned into hundreds of demon heads. After a few howls, it was swallowed by the demon saber. And when Xiao Hua's left hand slashed down, Demon Emperor's body had already turned into a pool of blood and disappeared from the spot. Xiao Hua sneered, "Are you leaving now? My dear Demon Emperor, don't you think it's a bit late? This Xiao racked his brains to prepare so many wonderful things for you. Don't you want to see a few more?" With that, Xiao Hua patted the top of his head. Boom! 5-colored true chi spurted out and turned into a petal that looked like a jade archive. Dressed in Confucian robes, Xiao Hua stood on the petal with a solemn expression. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua flew out. Without saying a word, he waved his sleeve and the 9 continents cauldrons landed in the air. The 9 cauldrons issued a rumbling sound and flew towards the place where Demon Emperor disappeared. The righteous chi on the cauldrons shattered the demon blood paradise. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua raised his hand and one of the 5-colored petals above his head fell into his hand. Soon after, Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua soared into the sky. The petal in his hand turned into a heart shape and fell towards a certain place in space. As soon as the heart-shaped petal flew out, an unparalleled righteous chi broke through the confinement of space and revealed Demon Emperor's figure in the void. At this time, the Demon Emperor's devil chi surged in front of his chest and turned into bubbles of various sizes. These bubbles not only had a tendency to spread, but also had a tendency to burst. As soon as Demon Emperor's figure appeared, the 9 continents cauldrons rushed out. The 9 vast righteous chi firmly trapped Demon Emperor. As for the 5-colored heart shape, it quickly melted the demon blood paradise and turned into a rainbow that rushed towards Demon Emperor, causing him to tremble with fear again. This is... Demon Emperor's one eye opened wide, revealing a look of doubt and panic. He looked at the 9 continents cauldrons and the 5-colored true chi. He muttered and spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood fell in the air and turned into a huge demon head that rushed towards the heart shape, wanting to resist the righteous chi. However, before the devil could fly more than 10 feet, a low voice sounded from Xiao Hua's direction. Namo Mithra Buddha. The Devil Emperor trembled violently as if he was struck by lightning. He raised his head and looked at Xiao Hua with even more disbelief. Above Xiao Hua's head, Buddhist light spurted out. Buddha Bodhi flew out with a monk's staff in his hand and a kasaya of the million Buddhas picture draped over his body. As soon as Bodhi appeared, the chanting of the million Buddhas sounded. Buddhist light gushed out from the kasaya. Various phantoms of Buddha lords flew out from the Buddhist light and protected Bodhi in the middle. Although Bodhi's figure was only 8 feet tall, his golden body was very condensed. The Buddhist light was even more powerful than the righteous chi and pierced through the demon blood paradise. The lotus platform under Bodhi's feet surged with a strange fragrance and Buddhist clouds. Within the Buddhist light, the demons and demon flames in the vicinity of several li turned into green smoke. Wails and cries of agony could be heard incessantly. Buddha! Buddha! As strong as the demon emperor was, he couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Bodhi appear. He stuttered and couldn't continue. Bodhi raised his left hand and the monk's staff turned into the shape of a dragon. It roared and pounced towards the demon emperor. Wherever the monk's staff passed, heavenly flowers would appear and kill the demons. Bodhi controlled the lotus platform to fly past the path of heavenly flowers and pounce towards the demon emperor. Bodhi began to chant Buddhist scriptures, and a series of ripples appeared in the air. Although the ripples were invisible, the Nephilim emperor retreated as if he had seen his nemesis. He did not even have time to worry about the blood demon that he had just spat out. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Seeing that the demon emperor was about to retreat, Bodhi reached into his bosom and took out an item. He shook his hand and threw it out. Shwa! The item unfolded and Buddhist light spilled out. A Buddha statue of Mahavarakana appeared in the sky. It was the Mahavarakana Buddha that Xiao Hua obtained from the West Sea. The Buddha statue of Mahavarakana Buddha appeared. Even though he was facing the demon emperor, there was no change in his merciful eyes. The Buddha Lord chanted, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Then, he raised his right hand and gently stretched out his index finger. A small world appeared where the Buddhist light was. Then, his index finger streaked across the sky and landed on the demon emperor's head. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Waves of Buddhist chants and the sound of wooden fish rang out. The demon emperor's demonic body that even the soaring dragon scissors couldn't destroy immediately glowed with Buddhist light. The demonic patterns on the demon emperor's body broke inch by inch, and the demon emperor rolled wildly in the sky. Chapter 4108. Woo woo. Two ghostly cries rang out. Two pitch-black devils rushed out from the devil emperor's body, their eyes flashing with blood-red light. In a flash, they arrived in front of Xiao Hua and Bodhi. When the devils' pitch-black bodies were destroyed by the righteous Qi and Buddhist light, the two devils with only their blood-red cores crashed into Xiao Hua and Bodhi's bodies. Boom boom. Two muffled sounds rang out. The devils crashed into the chests of Xiao Hua and Bodhi, creating a hole in their chests. The moment the devils exploded, the bodies of the two avatars shook violently. In particular, Bodhi's body collapsed rapidly. Even his lotus throne seemed to be stained with ink. Damn it! When the demon emperor saw that his two nemesis were injured, he couldn't help but curse. He struggled to stabilize himself in midair. At this moment, the demon blood wonderland that covered thousands of miles had already begun to tremble and was on the verge of collapse. At this moment, another change occurred. Strands of dark green light appeared in midair. Then, countless green seal script characters swarmed toward the Devil Emperor like a swarm of tadpoles. When they got close to the Devil Emperor, the countless green seal script characters combined together. Waves of ghostly noises resounded from the void. One after another, the thunder of three corpses pounced on the Devil Emperor like a flood. Woo! The Devil Emperor seemed to be weeping and shocked at the same time. The appearance of the green seal characters was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The Devil Emperor's devil body had already been destroyed by the Buddha's light, and now it had been severely damaged by the soul cultivator Xiao Hua's lightning and thunder technique. The famous Devil Emperor only said a few words and did not dare to fight anymore. His figure turned into a wisp of devil qi and fled into the distance. As the Devil Emperor fled, the demon blood utopia surrounding Xiao Hua immediately collapsed and disappeared with a rumble. The devil spirit Xiao Hua turned into a dispirited human form and collapsed in midair. Xiao Hua let out a long sigh of relief. He sensed that the Devil Emperor used the Devil Realm's concealment technique that he was very familiar with. Xiao Hua's spirit was shaken again. He shouted, "Fellow Taoists, kill!" As he spoke, Xiao Hua's figure flickered, and he took the injured devil spirit Xiao Hua into his body. The sound of thunder shook the heavens and the earth as a bolt of lightning tore through the sky and chased after the Devil Emperor. Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua, Confucian Cultivator Xiao Hua, and Buddha Subhuti surrounded Xiaohua and chased after him. Xiaohua really didn't expect that the Soul Cultivator Xiaohua's Green Seal script, the Confucian Cultivator Xiaohua's innate true qi, and Buddha Bodhi's Buddhist light could actually injure the Devil Emperor. Although the Confucian Cultivator Xiaohua and Buddha Bodhi were both injured, Xiaohua knew that the Devil Emperor's injuries were even more severe. Today, he relied on his 3 doppelgangers and the Devil Blade to injure the Devil Emperor when he least expected it. It would be extremely difficult for him to have such a good opportunity in the future. If he didn't kill the Devil Emperor today, he would definitely die in the future. After all, the Devil Emperor wasn't someone a 9th grade origin energy realm like him could resist. Although the Devil Emperor escaped quickly, Xiaohua's lightning escape technique had already reached perfection. How could he let the Devil Emperor escape? In just a short moment, although the Devil Emperor had escaped for hundreds of thousands of li, Xiaohua and the others were still easily chasing after him. A huge mountain appeared in front of the Devil Emperor. The Devil Emperor turned his head and glanced at Xiaohua. Xiaohua actually saw a strange smile in the Devil Emperor's bloody eyes. The Devil Emperor plunged into the mountain. Xiaohua raised his hand and signaled his 3 doppelgangers to come closer. He followed without hesitation. His figure flickered as he activated the Devil Realm's concealment technique and rushed into the void. Wang wang wang. A rumbling sound suddenly came from the left side of Xiaohua. Then the entire void rolled, as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. Damn it! Xiaohua was shocked. Damn it, I was too greedy. Did I fall into the Devil Emperor's trap? However, the light and shadow around Xiaohua changed. Everything rushed into Xiaohua's mind like a stream of light. Xiaohua did not feel any attack. Moreover, as the scene before his eyes gradually calmed down, Xiaohua's mind was in a mess. It was like a pot of porridge. It was as if someone had stuffed a lot of things into his mind, but he just could not remember what they were. This is... Xiaohua shook his head, trying his best to shake off the heavy feeling. However, the more he shook his head, the more confused his mind became. Xiaohua could only raise his head. When he saw everything in front of him, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Is this the Star Moon Palace?" Indeed, in front of Xiaohua was a distorted void. In this space, a huge palace emitted a faint 9-colored light and stood there. Although the palace was very far away from Xiaohua, he could clearly see the 3 large words above the palace door. It said, Star Moon Palace. How is this possible? Xiaohua was dumbfounded. Didn't Do Shanjun say that the Star Moon Palace is somewhere in the hidden immortal continent? How can it be in the space of the ruins? Fellow Taoist, have you forgotten? At this moment, another voice sounded behind Xiaohua. Zhu Qing from Zhaixing Lu said clearly that the Star Moon Palace is a relic left behind in the 3 continents from the Upper Realm. The Upper Realm that he mentioned? Isn't it the ruins here? Ah. Xiaohua was shocked and suddenly turned his head. He saw the dragon vein Xiaohua standing behind him and smiling. Beside the dragon vein Xiaohua, the bone-tempering Xiaohua, the phoenix body Xiaohua, and the demon spirit Xiaohua were also standing there with smiles. The dragon vein Xiaohua was wearing a golden dragon robe and the dragon horns on his head were very obvious. The bone-tempering Xiaohua was almost naked and only wore a short shirt to cover his private parts. The phoenix body Xiaohua was wearing colorful clothes and there were wings between his arms. As for the demon spirit Xiaohua, he was completely black and there were obvious demon patterns flashing on his face. Xiaohua was a little confused. He pointed at the 4 doppelgangers and didn't know what he wanted to say. The demon spirit Xiaohua also smiled and said, "Brothers, let's speed up." The demon emperor flew here and disappeared. He must have discovered the Star Moon Palace hidden in the void. He must be hiding in the Star Moon Palace. Let's hurry over and kill him, so that we can take revenge for injuring us earlier. That's right. Xiaohua gnashed his teeth as well. This Devil Emperor is too cunning, and his strength is too formidable as well. If we don't kill him today, then we'll definitely not have such a good opportunity in the future. Of course, if we can find the spatial crack to return to the hidden immortal mainland from the Star Moon Palace, it will be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The dragon Vane Xiaohua agreed. But, hearing the doppelganger's agreement, Xiaohua nodded and waved his hand. We will enter the Star Moon Palace now and find the way back while killing the Demon Emperor. Hee, if there are any treasures, we can't let them go. The bone-tempering Xiaohua said with a low laugh. Immediately after, Xiaohua led the 4 clones and flew towards the Xingyue Palace. When they got closer, Xiaohua discovered that the huge Xingyue Palace was surrounded by an inexplicable spatial turbulence. Within the turbulence, starlight was scattered, and it seemed as though one would be shredded if they looked into it. Moreover, there was a huge suction force within the turbulence, pulling his body into the turbulence. In the end, when they were not far from the gate of Star Moon Palace, Xiaohua could barely fly and had to land. Fortunately, there were more than a dozen floating boulders in the turbulence. Xiaohua and his 4 doppelgangers followed the boulders and jumped to the stairs in front of the palace. Damn it, this is too dangerous. If it weren't for my nimbleness, I'm afraid I would have fallen into the turbulence. Xiaohua cursed as he jumped over the last boulder. The bone-tempering Xiaohua smiled and said, "Even I think it's fine. How can something happen to you? Hee, this is our opportunity. There must be countless treasures in the Star Moon Palace." The demon spirit Xiaohua also seemed to have learned to be greedy and replied, "There's someone in the Bright Moon Palace?" Xiaohua and the others had just stood on the stairs when the phoenix body Xiaohua's sharp eyes pointed to a place above the palace and exclaimed, "It must be the Devil Emperor." The demon spirit looked up, only to see a figure swaying. He unconsciously gritted his teeth and shouted, "Let's hurry up and catch up. When this little brother swallows this Devil Emperor, this little brother will also reach the Devil Emperor realm. In the future, this little brother will be able to help all of you. Let's go." Xiaohua nodded and urged his spiritual power to rush to the palace door. However, when he reached the steps of the palace door, he couldn't even sense a trace of true essence. Xiaohua frowned slightly and was about to raise his hand to take out the wishful staff, but he suddenly found that he couldn't perceive the space at all. Everything in the space couldn't be taken out. Oh, what should I do? Xiaohua was shocked and immediately wanted to retreat. However, just as he turned his head and was about to discuss with the dragon Vane Xiaohua and the other doppelgangers, he found that the boulder that he had stepped on before had disappeared into the turbulence and there was no trace of it. What's wrong, fellow Taoist? Dragon Vane Xiaohua saw Xiaohua's expression change and asked strangely, "What? You don't know?" Xiaohua was once again stunned. Although he had already mastered the external incarnation technique and his 4 clones were able to go out independently, his external incarnation technique had yet to reach the great perfection stage. His 4 clones were still connected to Xiaohua's thoughts most of the time. Xiaohua's surprise just now was not hidden from his 4 clones. If it was normal, Xiaohua and the others should have been able to sense the dragon vein. Dragon Vane Xiaohua was puzzled and shrugged. How would I know what fellow Taoist is thinking? It's a little strange. Xiaohua frowned and looked up at the plaque of the Star Moon Palace. He whispered, "Could it be because of the Star Moon Palace?" "What's strange?" Phoenix Body Xiaohua was also puzzled and asked. "Don't worry." Xiaohua pondered for a moment and raised his hand to slap the top of his head. Unfortunately, there was no change. Whether it was the soul cultivator Xiaohua or the scholarly cultivator Xiaohua, even the green-robed Xiaohua and Buddha Bodhi did not appear. What's going on? Xiaohua looked at Dragon Vane Xiaohua and the others, and his heart was even more puzzled. Since they are all doppelgangers, why can these doppelgangers appear beside this Xiao, but the others can't? But if the soul cultivator Xiaohua and the others can't appear, how can this Xiao be the opponent of the Devil Emperor? Chapter 4109. But now, do we still have a way out? Xiaohua smiled bitterly as he looked at the turbulence behind him. Without transcendence energy, Xiaohua had no confidence in escaping from the turbulence. Xiaohua raised his head to look at the top of the Star Moon Palace where the Demon Emperor had appeared. His eyes narrowed as he bit his lips and pondered for a moment. He waved his hand and said, "Fellow cultivators, this Star Moon Palace is a little strange. It seems like we can't use our transcendence energy and other remarkable abilities. Since the demon spirit Xiaohua is the same, I believe the demon emperor is not much stronger than us. There are 5 of us and only 1 demon emperor, so we have the advantage. Let's go. If we don't kill the demon emperor today, I'm afraid we won't have another chance in the future. But Long Mai, Xiaohua, and the others nodded and cheered without any objections. Xiaohua calmed down and carefully walked up the steps of the Star Moon Palace. After walking for half a cup of tea's time, the 5 of them finally arrived in front of the palace door. The palace gate was at least 1,000 feet long, and there were many patterns engraved on the palace gate. The patterns seemed to be talismans and also seemed to be inscriptions, and they were somewhat similar to dragon patterns. However, when Xiaohua and the others looked at it, they all felt a little dizzy. Xiaohua's already somewhat heavy mind became even more unclear. Xiaohua raised his hand and wanted to push the palace door, but when he stretched out his arm, the palace door actually went through as if it was invisible. Xiaohua turned his head and pointed to the sides. Long Mai, Xiaohua, and the others hurriedly stood in a line in front of the palace door. Following Xiaohua's 3, 2, 1, the 5 of them rushed through the palace door at the same time. Xiaohua's vision blurred. When he looked again, he was standing in an extremely huge palace. The floor of the palace was paved with bluestone that was dozens of feet wide. There was nothing in the palace, not even a single pillar. On the 2 sides of the palace, and in the depths of the palace, there were 4 palace doors embedded in the stone walls. Xiaohua tried to release his divine perception and soul consciousness, but to no avail. He could only look left and right at the dragon vein, Xiaohua, and the others. These 4 clones also smiled bitterly. Presumably, they couldn't use any of their abilities. 5 8th and 9th grade Essence Force experts were no different from ordinary men in this Star Moon Palace. The Devil Emperor we saw earlier was at the top of the Star Moon Palace. Dragon Vein Xiaohua looked at the palace doors around him and said, "That guy must have gone up through the steps behind the palace doors. It looks like we have to chase after them too." "Don't be anxious," Xiaohua said softly. "There are many opportunities in this stellar moon palace. Now that we have lost all our dermic powers and divine abilities, if we don't find any dermic artifacts to protect ourselves, it will be difficult to withstand the Fiend Monarch's attacks." "Not bad." Devil Spirit Xiaohua agreed. "That guy came in early, maybe he already found some handy devil tool. We are definitely not his match with our bare hands." If he had found a suitable demonic weapon, why would he need to hide at the top of the Star Moon Palace? Phoenix Body Xiaohua retorted. "He must be lying in ambush here, waiting for us to stand firm before killing us, right?" "Hee, Big Brother Phoenix Body is right." Devil Spirit Xiaohua laughed. "However, there are many of us, so there are many chances to find dermic artifacts. As long as we don't get separated, even if we encounter the Devil Emperor, we can still charge at him together." As long as there is no Devil Blood Paradise, why would I be afraid of him?" Bone-honed Xiaohua sneered, full of fighting spirit. "No need to say more, we will search first." Xiaohua's eyes turned a few times, then he led the way to a palace door on the right side of the palace. After walking through the palace door, Xiaohua was stunned again, because behind this palace door was another palace, and inside this palace, there were 4 more palace doors. Damn it! Xiaohua almost cursed. What he was most afraid of in his life was finding his way. This Star Moon Palace was obviously a huge maze. Wasn't this playing with him to death? Not to mention killing some Devil Emperor, just this tangled and complicated path was enough to kill him. "Big brother, look." Devil Spirit Xiaohua was still quick-witted, hurriedly raising his hand to point at the top of the palace and shouted, "There are words here." Sure enough, Xiaohua raised his head to look, and on the palace ceiling that was as high as the sky, a row of floating cloud-like words appeared, A2. Xiaohua was bewildered, and asked curiously, "What does this mean?" Not only Xiaohua, but Dragon Vein Xiaohua and the other doppelgangers were also puzzled. This palace was the same size as the previous one, and similarly, there was nothing. Without using divine perception, one could understand it with one's naked eye. Xiaohua was helpless, and led the 4 doppelgangers into another palace door. Sure enough, behind the palace door was another identical palace, but this palace had A2 written on the roof. I understand. Xiao Hua suddenly shouted. This is the palace's serial number. Just like the rooms in the inn in Jinghua City, there are heaven and earth words. This is the 7th palace of the A palace. That palace from before must be the 2nd palace of the A palace. In that case, the first palace we entered should be O1. Fellow Taoist is wise. Dragon Vein Xiaohua gave a thumbs up and praised, such a complicated thing, I'm afraid I and the others have no way of knowing. Let's go. Xiaohua said with a smile, let's look further inside. Sure enough, as they walked further inside, they saw A2, and other words, just as Xiaohua guessed. However, as everyone walked deeper into the Star Moon Palace, although they did not see any treasures, the deeper Xiaohua went, the more doubts he had in his heart. Dragon Vein Xiaohua was a little surprised, looked at Xiaohua and asked, Fellow Taoist, why is your expression so ugly? Xiaohua pinched his chin, standing at the entrance of the 2 palaces, looked left and right and said in a low voice, Fellow Taoists, I seem to have a familiar feeling. It seems like I have been here before. How is that possible? Dragon Vein Xiaohua said in shock. These palaces look exactly the same. How can fellow Taoists distinguish them? Also, how can fellow Taoists have been to the Star Moon Palace before? I don't know either. Xiaohua frowned, his gaze deeply staring at the words on the palaces, and answered with some confusion, maybe it's just a feeling? Crack. Suddenly, a crisp sound came from a place not far away. Bone-honing Xiaohua was shocked, glanced at Xiaohua and the others, and shouted, Who? As he spoke, his figure hurriedly rushed over, and Dragon Vein Xiaohua and the others did not dare to delay, following Bone-honing Xiaohua through a few palace doors to a palace. At the entrance of this palace, a jade slip lay peacefully on the ground, and the words, A2, floated above the palace. Someone's here? Bone-honing Xiaohua bent down to pick up the jade slip, and his figure hurriedly ran to the 4 palace doors to take a look. Only then did he turn back in surprise, shook his head and said, I didn't find him, that guy ran away extremely quickly. Damn it. Phoenix Body Xiaohua cursed in a low voice. It's really troublesome to not have an elemental sense. Otherwise, wouldn't we know with a sweep? This. Xiaohua looked at the jade slip in Bone-honing Xiaohua's hand, and said with a somewhat pale face, This is I's jade slip. Yours? Bone-honing Xiaohua asked curiously, How could it be your jade slip? Xiaohua hurriedly reached into his bosom, but did not take out anything. He reached out and took the jade slip from Bone-honing Xiaohua's hand, looked at it carefully and sighed. There's no mistake, this is the jade slip that Bai Ming from White Cloud Temple gave to I. Because I wanted White Cloud Temple's orthodoxy, this jade slip was not in my eyes, so I did not put it into the space, and only kept it in my bosom. But I didn't expect the jade slip in my bosom to disappear, and I don't know how it got here. This. Dragon Vein Xiaohua said disdainfully, Fellow Taoist, you don't have divine sense now, so how do you know this is Bai Ming's jade slip? Anything can happen in the Star Moon Palace. Fellow Taoist feelings are not reliable. Alright. Xiaohua did not intend to convince anyone, so he put the jade slip away and said, Let's continue looking. Since there was movement just now, maybe the Devil Emperor has returned. Let's be careful. The 4 doppelgangers looked at each other, and vigilance appeared in their eyes. As Xiaohua walked out of the hall, the 5 of them were abnormally vigilant. Unfortunately, the 5 of them searched for the time it took to drink a cup of tea, but did not find any trace of the Devil Emperor. Instead, they found something strange in the depths of Star Moon Palace, in a hall with A71 floating on the roof. This hall was different from what Xiaohua and the others had seen before. There were some irregular mirrors on the 4 walls, and under the mirrors, there was an empty stone table. In front of the hall, there were several extremely tiered sacrificial tables. On the sacrificial tables, besides some strange spirit fruits, there was also a huge statue. This statue was not in the shape of a human. Its entire body was transparent, and there were some 7 colors flowing inside. Every time a wisp of 7 colors floated by, a layer of light fog would be produced, enveloping the statue. The statue had 3 arms, 5 legs, and its entire body was in the shape of a strange whirlpool, like a flipping ribbon. The statue had 3 heads, each facing the 3 directions of the hall, and these 3 heads looked like human faces, looking exactly the same. However, when Xiao Hua and the others looked carefully, their faces were blurry, and they could not see clearly. It's too strange. What kind of statue is this? It looks like the bones of a celestial being? Phoenix Body Xiao Hua walked to the front of the statue and looked it up and down. His gaze then fell on the spirit fruits, and he casually picked up a fist-sized spirit fruit to take a closer look. The spirit fruit looked very fresh, as if it had just been plucked from a spirit tree, and a strange fragrance rushed into his nose. Phoenix Body Xiao Hua could not help but open his mouth, and with a crunch, he bit off a piece. When the spirit fruit fell into his mouth, it melted into juice, and an enchanting sweet fragrance instantly spread throughout the hall. Phoenix Body Xiao Hua saw Phoenix Body Xiao Hua pick up the spirit fruit and was about to stop him, but the corner of his eyes occasionally swept over, and it really did fall on a mirror on the stone wall. A vague shadow flashed on it, and then disappeared, so he could not see clearly who it was. Who? Xiao Hua was shocked, and hurriedly turned to look at the door near the mirror. Chapter 41:10. Bone Honing Xiao Hua and Dragon Vein Xiao Hua originally wanted to follow Phoenix Body Xiao Hua to get the spirit fruit, but when they heard Xiao Hua's shout, they stopped and turned to look at the palace door. However, the entrance of the palace was completely empty. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Bone Honing Xiao Hua frowned, picked up a spirit fruit, took a bite, and walked towards the palace door, vaguely calling out, "Damn, could it be the Demon Emperor again? What is this guy doing pretending to be mysterious? Is he trying to lure us into an ambush?" "Fellow Taoist, be careful," Xiao Hua said anxiously. "We'll go take a look together." "Hee hee." Bone Honing Xiao Hua laughed. "No need, I want to see if the Demon Emperor's bones are harder or if I's bones are harder." "Fellow Taoist, why do you have to act alone?" Xiao Hua opened his mouth, but before he finished speaking, Dragon Vein Xiao Hua in the distance laughed. "Fellow Taoist, you don't have to pay attention to him. The Demon Emperor has lost his demonic weapon, so I'm afraid he can't do anything to fellow Taoist. Come and taste this spirit fruit, it seems to be good for our physical strength." "Okay." Xiao Hua also felt a little exhausted at this time. Seeing Bone Honing Xiao Hua's figure disappear at the palace door, he turned and walked towards the spirit fruit. Bone Honing Xiao Hua said disdainfully, but he was also vigilant in his heart. While eating the spirit fruit, he carefully walked into the palace next door. However, this palace was empty, and there was nothing. Bone Honing Xiao Hua was a little unwilling, and he walked through a few more palaces before preparing to return. However, just as he turned around, a pung sound came from the palace not far away. The Bone Honing Xiao Hua was startled. He clenched his fists and tiptoed over. This was a palace hall that was exactly the same as before. The words A40 floated on top of the palace hall. There was no one inside the palace hall, but the 2 doors in front of the palace hall were flashing with 7-colored rays of light. Bone Honing Xiao Hua slowly walked in front of the rays of light, took a look, and then his figure disappeared into the palace door. Xiao Hua stayed in the palace that seemed to be a statue. He picked up a spirit fruit, stared at it for a moment, and put it in his mouth to take a bite. Sure enough, when the juice of the spirit fruit entered his stomach, a burst of heat gushed out, spreading to Xiao Hua's limbs, and that rare state of exhaustion from before was somewhat alleviated. Damn it! Xiao Hua's eyes turned quickly, looking at the spirit fruit and that strange statue. He thought to himself, "What's the situation? Ever since I started cultivating, I have never felt exhausted. Even if I was seriously injured, even if I lost all my magic power, I have never felt this way. In this Star Moon Palace. Could it be that I've become immortal? If I'm immortal..." Thinking of this Xiao was suddenly startled, and an indescribable fear rose from the bottom of his heart. If this Xiao was immortal, wouldn't this Xiao be killed by a random demonic tool? Since eyes, Xiao Hua's eyes to Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. Xiao Hua xiao 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 hua, xiao, xiao xiao to, xiao's xiao, s to return. But Xiao Hua swallowed the spirit fruit in his hand, clapped his hands, and stood up. Seeing that phoenix body Xiao Hua and devil spirit Xiao Hua also wanted to follow, Xiao Hua's heart moved and he said, "You two wait here. If we don't find fellow Taoist tempered bones and he comes back by himself, wouldn't we be rushing for nothing? You two wait here, you can be considered a backup." Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua looked at each other and said at the same time, "That's fine too. The two of us will wait here. And you two shouldn't be afraid of the Devil Emperor's sneak attack." Xiao Hua nodded and then said to Xiao Hua, "You were a bit reckless earlier, Xiao Hua. You shouldn't have let Xiao Hua go alone." Xiao Hua frowned, showing slight displeasure. Xiao Hua didn't want to let Xiao Hua go alone, but wasn't it because of Xiao Hua's words that Xiao Hua gave up chasing? However, thinking that these clones were all separated from his primordial spirit, Xiao Hua didn't say anything. Without looking back, he chased after the bone-honing Xiao Hua and entered the hall. "Wait for me, Dao friend," Dragon Vein Xiao Hua said and hurriedly chased after him. Only Phoenix Body Xiao Hua and Devil Spirit Xiao Hua were left in the hall. Xiao Hua entered the hall, looked at the scenery that was no different from before, and then looked at the words on the roof, and said loudly, "Where is Xiao Hua?" Xiao Hua didn't respond, and Xiao Hua took Xiao Hua of the dragon to choose a door to continue searching. However, after searching for half a cup of tea's time, he still didn't see Xiao Hua's figure, and even Xiao Hua himself was a bit lost. But just as he was about to step into a door, Xiao Hua of the dragon hurriedly shouted, "Dao friend, we've just passed through this door, we should go to that door." Xiao Hua looked around and said doubtfully, "No. I don't think we've been here before." "We've definitely been here before," Xiao Hua of the dragon said with a smile. "Dao friend's sense of direction is not strong, naturally you can't sense it, but I can see it." This. Xiao Hua hesitated slightly, thought for a moment, and said, "How about this, we'll go in and take a look first, if we've really been here, we'll go back to that hall, how about it?" "No need, right?" Xiao Hua of the dragon said somewhat proudly, "I still have this confidence. Let's go." Xiao Hua was too lazy to say anything more to him, and stepped into the hall. Xiao Hua of the dragon saw Xiao Hua enter without permission, and was a little displeased. He chased after him and said anxiously, "Why don't you believe I's words?" However, after entering the hall, although it was also empty, the text number was indeed unfamiliar. It was the place where Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua of the dragon had never been. "Have you been here before?" Xiao Hua asked coldly. Xiao Hua of the dragon was a little embarrassed, and argued forcefully, "I haven't been here, but I seem to have been here before." Xiao Hua frowned again, glared at Xiao Hua of the dragon, and didn't say anything else. He looked around and shouted, "Where is Dao friend Xiao Hua?" Seeing that there was no sound again, Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua of the dragon once again looked for another hall. Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua of the dragon vein had different opinions. Xiao Hua wanted to go in this direction, while Xiao Hua wanted to go in that direction. After several compromises, both of them had their own right and wrong. Finally, after arriving at a palace, Xiao Hua said coldly, "Fellow Taoist dragon vein, are you listening to this poor Taoist or this poor Taoist will listen to you?" "I'll listen to whoever is right." Xiao Hua of the dragon's expression was also indifferent, and replied, "I feel that Dao friend can't distinguish the direction. After searching for so long, you still haven't found Dao friend Xiao Hua, and now I'm afraid you've already lost your way. Why don't you listen to I?" You are a clone of I." Xiao Hua was a little angry. "How can I listen to you?" Xiao Hua of the dragon smiled and replied, "Dao friend is right, I am a clone of Dao friend. But don't forget, fellow Taoist, since you've created our clones and cultivated the external incarnation technique, then we are no longer simple clones, nor are we the clones of the dragon clan. We're real cultivators. Since we are real cultivators, why must I listen to you?" This. Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. He had always treated his avatar as himself, and his avatar would come and go as he pleased. Similarly, his avatar would also obey his orders and would never resist. What Xiaohua had said about the dragon vein, he had never thought about it. However, what Xiaohua of the dragon said was right. What was the purpose of cultivating clones? Previously, he wanted to find a helper for himself, but since it was a helper, he had to cultivate the external incarnation technique and let the 10 primordial spirits cultivate separately. But since he wanted the 10 primordial spirits to cultivate separately, it was inevitable that they would have their own personalities. It was inevitable that they would be independent. Xiaohua had already noticed some signs of this situation in the heaven prison. Sometimes, he might not know what Xiaohua of the dragon race and the other clones were thinking, especially when they were hiding something from him. He was unable to detect it. Xiaohua was already somewhat vigilant towards this abnormality. One of the reasons why he looked for Baiyun Monastery and even rescued the 10 Southwest sects was to obtain the inheritance of these sections. The Tao cultivators of the ruins did not cultivate nascent soul but primordial spirit. Xiaohua could not obtain the solution from the cultivation of Confucian cultivators, so he wanted to find some solutions from the Tao sects of the ruins. However, Xiaohua still did not expect that Xiaohua of the dragon race would have such an idea just after the battle with the Devil Emperor. Since Xiaohua of the dragon race had it, wouldn't the bone-tempering Xiaohua and the other clones also have it? And the bone-tempering Xiaohua who went to find the Devil Emperor by himself, wasn't it a manifestation of wanting to be independent? He did not seem to understand and was kept in the dark like this. Seeing that Xiaohua was silent, Xiaohua of the dragon race smiled and said, "Since Tao friend is lost, why don't you let I lead the way?" With that, Xiaohua of the dragon race waved his sleeves and walked towards a palace door. Xiaohua looked at Xiaohua of the dragon race's back and felt that it was exceptionally unfamiliar. He pondered for a moment and followed him. As soon as the two of them passed through the palace door, they heard a huge rumbling sound from inside the palace. I was right? I really haven't been here before." Xiaohua of the dragon race laughed loudly and pointed at a corner of the palace. Xiaohua's face was full of dark clouds. He looked at the corner of the palace and saw that there was really a cauldron for refining weapons. The fire in the cauldron was boiling, and something that looked like a sword embryo was floating quietly above the fire. The fire in the cauldron looked purple-green and the temperature was extremely high, but the color of the sword embryo did not change at all, as if the cauldron had no effect at all. Xiaohua felt a sense of familiarity in his heart, but he couldn't tell where he had seen him before. Almost at the same time, Xiaohua of the dragon race also had a strange feeling in his mouth and cried out in surprise, what is that?" Xiaohua was shocked and hurriedly followed Xiaohua of the dragon race's finger again. He saw that there were some bloodstains on the ground on the other side of the cauldron, and a line of blurry handwriting was written next to the bloodstains, "To A31, C." Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air and said anxiously, This is the blood of the bone-tempering Xiaohua? When did he have flesh?" Chapter 41:11. Fellow Taoist. Dragon Vein Xiaohua was somewhat dissatisfied and said indifferently, "We have flesh and blood since our avatars. Fellow Taoist must have looked down on us, so you never thought about it, right?" Xiaohua shook his head and said, "Even if fellow Taoist Tempered Bones was injured, he would still rush back to find us. How could he go to A31? This must be a trap of the Demon Emperor. We should hurry back and meet up with fellow Taoist Phoenix Body and fellow Taoist Demon Spirit." After speaking, Xiaohua turned and left. However, when he walked to the door, he was stunned again. He turned and said, "Fellow Taoist Dragon Vein, why aren't you moving?" Dragon Vein Xiaohua's words almost angered Xiaohua to the point of smoke coming out of his 7 orifices. This poor Taoist feels that this was left behind by fellow Taoist Tempered Bones. He was seriously injured and was rushing to A31 Hall. He is currently waiting for our rescue. We should go to A31 Hall first. "Fellow Taoist, are you sick?" Xiaohua said angrily. How does fellow Taoist Tempered Bones know about A31? Why didn't he return to A31? Why did he go to A31? Naturally, it's because A31 is close to here. Moreover, presumably fellow Taoist Tempered Bones also came from A31. He knows there is a hiding place there. Dragon Vein Xiaohua pointed at the hall and said indifferently. Xiaohua looked up. Sure enough, A28 was written on it. Just looking at the number, it was indeed not far from A31. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and said, I don't think it's possible for Xiaohua to run so far. This is a trap of the Demon Emperor. I have to rush back to A31. As for where to go, you choose yourself. The fellow Taoist in Xiaohua's mouth had now become you. After speaking, Xiaohua passed through the hall door without looking back. Of course, Xiaohua stood outside the hall door and waited for half a cup of tea's time, but he still didn't see Dragon Vein Xiaohua come out. Xiaohua sighed slightly. He was very disappointed in his heart, as if he had lost something. He turned around and walked towards A31 according to his memory. After walking through so many palaces, Xiaohua saw a lot of palace numbers. Although these numbers didn't have any particular pattern, Xiaohua still knew them from big to small. Without too many twists and turns, Xiaohua returned to Palace Hall A71. However, to Xiaohua's disappointment, no matter if it was the Phoenix Body Xiaohua or the Devil Spirit Xiaohua, they were not in the hall. Xiaohua couldn't help but punch the stone wall of the hall and cursed, "Damn it! These clones look like they're about to rebel." See! Just as he finished cursing, a sharp pain came from Xiaohua's hand. Xiaohua looked at his fist in disbelief, only to see that it was badly mutilated and blood was flowing out. Damn it! Xiaohua looked at the faint bloodstains on the stone wall, and couldn't help but curse again. Ever since he started cultivating, when had he ever been injured by punching a stone wall? With a wave of his hand, Xiaohua wiped away the bloodstains on the stone wall. Xiaohua was startled, but he saw that there were some black marks under the bloodstains. He hadn't noticed them before, but now they were especially eye-catching. However, just when Xiaohua wanted to take a closer look, a series of footsteps came from the distant palace door. Xiaohua hurriedly turned his head and saw Xiaohua, who was covered in blood, stumbling in from the side of the palace door. Fellow Taoist Bone Tempering. What was going on? What happened? Was it a trap set by the Demon Emperor? Xiaohua was greatly alarmed and hastily ran over. Just as Xiaohua passed by the statue, he was once again alarmed. Because all the spirit fruits that were previously placed on the statue were now rotten, and the smell of dust assailed his nostrils. However, Xiaohua couldn't care about these abnormalities now. He hurriedly wanted to run over and support Hon Xiaohua, who was about to fall down at any time. However, just as Xiaohua approached Hon Xiaohua, and before Xiaohua's arm could touch Hon Xiaohua, he saw Hon Xiaohua's bloody fist. Boom! Xiaohua was caught off guard and was hit in the chest. Xiaohua's figure was sent flying along with the wind from the fist, and he felt an indescribable dizziness. Xiaohua's mouth was sweet, and it seemed that blood was gushing out from his body. The robe on his chest was also torn by Hon Xiaohua. Damn it! Xiaohua was in the air. Seeing Hon Xiaohua rushing over again, Xiaohua was shocked and said, "Hon Xiaohua, are you crazy?" Ooh. Unfortunately, Hon Xiaohua whimpered and didn't allow Xiaohua to say anything. He rushed forward and punched Xiaohua. Seeing this, Xiaohua was helpless. He used the ethereal steps and used the Big Dipper magical fist to fight Hon Xiaohua. Hon Xiaohua was originally Xiaohua's clone. Although he practiced the Big Dipper magical fist a lot, how could he be Xiaohua's opponent? However, Bone Tempering Xiaohua's body was sturdy. Xiaohua didn't dare to meet force with force a few times and could only dodge. While Xiaohua was dodging, he anxiously said, "Bone Tempering fellow Taoist, what happened? Were you injured? Is it the Demon Emperor's doing? Where is the Demon Emperor?" Roar! Hon Xiaohua roared. His eyes were red, and he desperately rushed towards Xiaohua, completely ignoring Xiaohua's question. Xiaohua slightly leaned to the side and dodged Hon Xiaohua's attack. Hon Xiaohua crashed into the huge statue and staggered to the ground. His whole body twitched a few times and stopped moving. His two eyes were wide open, as if he died with grievances. These two eyes were looking at one of the three heads of the statue. Hon Xiaohua, Hon Xiaohua? Xiaohua truly felt that this was inconceivable. He had never thought that he, or even his doppelganger, would die so easily. Even if he died in the hands of the Devil Emperor, he should have fought until the sky turned dark and the earth turned dark. He walked a few steps, squatted down, and shook Hon Xiaohua's body. He even raised his hand and placed it on Hon Xiaohua's mouth and nose to check. He used his finger to check Hon Xiaohua's pulse, but he didn't find any vitality. After a while, Hon Xiaohua's body gradually turned cold. Xiaohua had no choice but to believe that Hon Xiaohua was really dead. Xiaohua was heartbroken, but he also felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. After all, he didn't know whether Hon Xiaohua was breathing or had a pulse when he was alive. But looking at the coldness of Hon Xiaohua's body and the blood on the ground, Xiaohua couldn't help but believe that after entering the Star Moon Palace, no matter what the cultivator's cultivation was, even if it was a clone, they would be no different from ordinary people and would easily die. Boom! Just as Xiaohua was thinking, a loud sound came from outside the other palace door. It seemed a little ethereal. What is this strange thing? Xiaohua was shocked. He didn't wait to raise his head and immediately shouted, "Which fellow Taoist is here? Quickly come over, fellow Taoist Hon Xiaohua has fallen." Seeing that there was no reply, Xiaohua hastily got up and rushed towards the source of the voice. After he rushed out of the palace door and made several turns, his eyes suddenly lit up. He entered a large hall that looked like an auction house. This large hall was divided into 2 floors. Xiaohua entered from a high platform. At this moment, Xiaohua, and Xiaohua of the dragon bloodline were all present. However, Xiaohua and Xiaohua of the dragon bloodline were squatting on the high platform. Xiaohua of the dragon bloodline was lying on the ground. Looking at Xiaohua of the dragon bloodline's arm that was hanging on the ground, Xiaohua of the dragon bloodline had a bad feeling in his heart. "Fellow Taoist Phoenix Body, what's going on? Why you here? Why aren't you waiting in A71? Xiaohua shouted and quickly rushed over. Unexpectedly, before Xiaohua could get close, Devil Spirit Xiaohua immediately jumped up from the ground and kicked Xiaohua. He said fiercely, "Damn it, you're still asking us what happened? Didn't you kill fellow Taoist Dragon Bloodline? Didn't you also ask us to come? What are you pretending for?" Devil Spirit Xiaohua's punches and kicks were naturally inferior to Xiaohua's. Xiaohua raised his hand to block Devil Spirit Xiaohua and said in surprise, I just heard the roar and hurried over from A71. How could I kill fellow Taoist Dragon Bloodline? Moreover, where is this place? I have never been here before." "You're still pretending." Phoenix Body Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed. "You said to ask fellow Taoist I and Devil Spirit Xiaohua to come to A31. Isn't this A31? Ah." Xiaohua was shocked and looked up. Sure enough, A31 was written on the roof of the palace. Damn it, so A31 is right next to A71. Xiaohua suddenly realized. However, at this moment, Xiaohua saw from the corner of his eyes that on the 2nd floor of the pavilion, a cloaked figure slowly stood up. The figure was holding something that looked like a god-slaying crossbow in his hand. "Quickly dodge." Xiaohua was shocked. His figure hurriedly rolled on the ground and rolled toward the palace door on the high platform. Boom! Just like the sound that Xiaohua heard in the A71 hall, on the 2nd floor of the pavilion, a rumbling sound resounded, and a dark brilliance streaked across the sky like lightning, instantly landing on Xiaohua's back. Ah! Xiaohua screamed miserably, his entire body fell to the ground, and that huge impact nailed him firmly to the high platform. A jet-black long arrow was inserted into Xiaohua's back, and that arrow's tail was swaying, while Xiaohua's body twitched a few times, and a large amount of blood flowed out. Then he stopped moving, and it seemed like he was dead. While rolling, Xiaohua was shocked to see that the black arrow that nailed Phoenix Body Xiaohua to death was exactly the same as the black arrow that pierced Dragon Bloodline Xiaohua's heart. Devil Emperor. This is Devil Emperor. Damn Devil Emperor. Xiaohua gritted his teeth and looked at the cloaked figure on the 2nd floor of the pavilion. Where did this bastard get this devil weapon? Damn it, we were unarmed in Star Moon Palace. His crossbow is probably 100 times more powerful than the soaring dragon scissors. Boom! Before Xiao Hua rolled to the front of the palace door, the roar of murder sounded again. Xiao Hua felt a sharp cold wind coming. He hurriedly shrank back and tried his best to throw himself to the side. Although his chest was in severe pain from the bone-tempering Xiao Hua's attack, escaping for his life was more important. How could he care about that? Chapter 41:12. Piv. The powerful impact brushed past Xiao Hua's Taoist robe and tore the Taoist robe under Xiao Hua's armpit. The black arrow brushed past Xiao Hua's skin and nailed itself to the high platform. Xiao Hua was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat. Xiao Hua didn't dare to stay any longer. He leaped up and pounced towards the palace door. Boom! Another loud explosion. Ah! The demonic spirit Xiao Hua screamed again. At this moment, Xiao Hua had already fled to the palace door. He looked back and saw that the demonic spirit Xiao Hua had been pierced by the Devil Emperor's arrow. Xiao Hua's body was rolling on the high platform and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. The Devil Emperor on the second floor had actually disappeared. It was obvious that he was chasing after Xiao Hua. Damn it! Xiao Hua was really panicking. Is this Star Moon Palace going to be this Xiao's burial ground? It's only been an hour and all 4 of my clones have been killed by the Devil Emperor. This was the only thought in Xiao Hua's mind. He rushed through the palace door and fled in a certain direction. Xiao Hua's sense of direction wasn't strong to begin with. Now that he was fleeing in panic, he was like a headless fly and gradually lost his way. Even so, Xiao Hua had a strong feeling that the Devil Emperor was right behind him, and definitely not too far away. At this moment, Xiao Hua was full of regret. He really shouldn't have coveted the treasures of the Star Moon Palace. He shouldn't have rashly entered the Star Moon Palace when he didn't have the ability to protect himself. It was even to the extent that the more Xiao Hua fled, the clearer his heart became. The words of the phoenix body Xiao Hua and the devil spirit Xiao Hua had originally confused him, but at this moment he understood that the Devil Emperor was definitely unable to kill him and his 4 clones. So the Devil Emperor had transformed into his appearance to lure the other 2 clones into his trap. Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. He had arrived at a place that was different from the previous palaces. In the corner of the hall, there was a weapon rack. Most of the weapons on it were empty. Only at the very edge of the rack was a very ugly and shabby small sword. The small sword was only 3 inches long, and the hilt was wrapped in some rags. There was even some black hair on the edge. Xiao Hua's gaze fell on the small sword, and a familiar feeling arose. Although Xiao Hua didn't know why there was a flying sword here, he didn't have any other choice. He raised his hand and grabbed Xiao Jian, and a cold feeling came from the hilt. That coldness caused Xiao Hua to become even calmer. He looked to his left and quickly walked to a palace door. After pondering for a bit, he raised his hand and passed through with the flying sword. However, Xiao Hua didn't directly enter the next palace. Instead, he stayed at the palace door and quietly waited with the flying sword in his hand. Sure enough, after a short while, footsteps could be heard coming from his palace. The Demon Emperor had chased after him. The Demon Emperor stopped by the weapon rack for a moment, and then rushed towards the palace door where Xiao Hua stopped. Xiao Hua took a deep breath and tightly clenched the flying sword in his hand, waiting for the Demon Emperor to come closer and give him a fatal blow. Unfortunately, when the Demon Emperor arrived in front of the palace door, he actually slowed down and finally stopped. After a moment of silence, his footsteps quickly went away. Obviously, he was chasing after another palace. Who? When the footsteps disappeared, Xiao Hua let out a long sigh of relief. His palms were sweaty. In his heart, he didn't know whether to rejoice or regret. However, he didn't dare to stay for long. He hurriedly passed through the palace door and arrived at another palace. The words A27 were floating on the roof of this palace. There was nothing inside the palace, but Xiao Hua's gaze fell on the 2 palace doors on one side of the palace. These 2 palace doors were different from all the palace doors Xiao Hua had seen before. The palace doors flashed with 7-colored light, as if it was a passage. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He hurriedly rushed over, holding the flying sword in his hand, and cautiously entered the light. As the light flashed in front of him, Xiao Hua frowned. Behind the light was not a passage, but a long corridor. On the side of the corridor near the Star Moon Palace, strange patterns were engraved on the stone walls. There were also some protruding spikes, as if they were protecting the patterns on the stone walls. On the other side of the corridor were some stone pillars, which also had spikes and patterns. These patterns flashed with a faint purple light. Xiaohua's gaze fell on the light, and he was shocked to discover that there were battles between heaven and man, yin and yang mating, mountains and rivers, a great battle between immortals and demons, and so on. Xiaohua didn't dare to look any longer and hurriedly retracted his gaze. Sometimes he would look outside the corridor. Outside the corridor, there were streams of different colored countercurrents. These countercurrents were the same as what Xiaohua and his 4 doppelgangers had encountered before entering the Star Moon Palace. They were filled with a power that could kill everything. These countercurrents filled the surroundings of the Star Moon Palace, firmly protecting it. Only some faint brilliance above the corridor blocked these countercurrents. These are the steps that lead to the second level of the Star Moon Palace. Xiaohua looked along the corridor again and saw a flight of steps in the distance. He didn't understand, but he understood. So the demonic emperor used these steps to ascend to the second level. Xiaohua was shocked. He suddenly thought of something and hurriedly turned around to escape to the other side of the corridor. However, at this moment, clang clang, a metallic sound and rapid footsteps came from the corridor of the second level of the Star Moon Palace. Xiaohua's heart suddenly clenched. What's wrong? Is there anyone else in the Star Moon Palace? Xiaohua's heart clenched. A strange feeling came from his left side again. Xiaohua hurriedly pulled his head back without hesitation. Whoosh! Amidst the rumbling sound, a jet black brilliance brushed past his head and fell into the countercurrent outside the corridor. That powerful crossbow was inferior to a small stone thrown into a lake. It didn't even cause a ripple and immediately disappeared without a trace. At this moment, how could Xiaohua still care if there was anyone on the second level of the Star Moon Palace? With a sway of his body, he used the ethereal steps and rushed in another direction. Although Xiaohua's body was fast, the demonic emperor in the cloak didn't show any weakness. He took out a black arrow from his cloak and placed it on the crossbow. He then followed Xiaohua and chased after him. Xiaohua was truly frightened. As he fled, he pondered. Looking at the countercurrent around him, his mind was blank and he didn't know how to deal with it. Seeing that there was a turn in front of him, Xiaohua's eyes lit up. He increased his speed and rushed in that direction. However, just as Xiaohua was about to turn to the right, his body suddenly tilted strangely to the left. Boom! The sound of the crossbow rang out again. A jet black light shot into the stone wall on the right side of the Star Moon Palace like lightning. If Xiaohua hadn't dodged to the left, this arrow would have nailed him to the stone wall. Xiaohua snorted coldly after dodging the black arrow. His body didn't stop as he waved his arms with extreme agility. With a sway of his body, he rushed into the corner like flowing water and disappeared in an instant. In a situation where he didn't have any transcendence energy, even if he didn't have any light body technique, Xiaohua's agility still gave him a lot of advantages. This was also the main reason why Xiaohua was still alive when all 4 of his doppelgangers were killed by the demonic emperor. The demonic emperor in the cloak cursed angrily. He took out a black arrow from his cloak and chased after Xiaohua at the same time. He seemed to have practiced the Major Stellar Fist and his speed wasn't much worse than Xiaohua's. However, just as the demonic emperor in the cloak chased after Xiaohua to the corner, a sword light abruptly pierced out. The demonic emperor in the cloak was shocked. He didn't expect Xiaohua to be so daring. He didn't run away but hid here and waited for him to catch up. However, at this moment, the demonic emperor in the cloak was caught off guard. He naturally raised his hand and wanted to block with his crossbow. Puff! Seeing that the crossbow was about to hit the small sword, Xiaohua slightly lowered the small sword in his hand. The tip of the sword very strangely avoided the crossbow and pierced the wrist of the demonic emperor in the cloak with extreme precision. The demonic emperor in the cloak also seemed to be aware of it, but his movement was obviously not as fast as Xiaohua's. Deng! The demonic emperor in the cloak loosened his grip and the crossbow unexpectedly fell to the ground. Without waiting for the demonic emperor to reach out his hand to catch it, Xiaohua kicked the crossbow away. It flew out of the corridor and fell into the countercurrent. The demonic emperor in the cloak was shocked. His voice was somewhat distorted through the cloak. It sounded very different from the voice of the demonic emperor in the previous battle. However, Xiaohua didn't care about this. He held the small sword in his hand and rushed forward, stabbing the demonic emperor in the chest at lightning speed. The demonic emperor in the midst of his shock also calmed his mind. He brandished his fists and legs to fight with Xiaohua. Oh! After a moment, Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. He was very familiar with the demonic emperor's fists and legs. Wasn't it just the Big Dipper God fist? Damn it! Xiaohua cursed. Aren't you too shameless? You didn't use your own demon realm's great heavenly cycle star fist and actually secretly learned this daddy's Big Dipper God fist. Although the demonic emperor in the cloak's fists and legs were similar to Xiaohua's swordsmanship was also very powerful. In just a short moment, the demonic emperor in the cloak was stabbed several times by Xiaohua. There was some blood oozing out from his arms and chest. Even the demonic emperor in the cloak was forced to the side of the corridor by Xiaohua. Seeing that the demonic emperor in the cloak was also injured, Xiaohua's heart calmed down. His swordsmanship was like a flower as he coldly asked, "Demonic emperor, if you honestly tell this Xiao how to get out of this Star Moon Palace, this Xiao might spare your life." Kill them, kill them. The demonic emperor in the cloak muttered in a low voice as if he was roaring, "Only by killing them all will we be able to escape, damn it." Xiaohua was enraged. The small sword in his hand suddenly stabbed at the demonic emperor in the chest as he shouted, "Even now, you still haven't forgotten to sow discord. Everyone in this Star Moon Palace has already been killed by you. Who else do you want to kill?" Pooh! The small sword stabbed into the demonic emperor in the chest. The demonic emperor in the cloak raised his hand and smashed Xiaohua's wrist. Feeling the pain, Xiaohua lifted his leg and gave a kick. Ping! The demonic emperor in the cloak was kicked out of the corridor by Xiaohua. Ah! The demonic emperor in the cloak screamed miserably. His chest, along with the small sword, fell into the reverse current and disappeared. Chapter 41:13. Damn it, I'm finally safe. Now that the enemy was gone, Xiaohua heaved a sigh of relief. A wave of pain came from all over his body. Although Xiaohua had the upper hand in the battle with the caped demon emperor, he was also seriously injured. Xiaohua did not care when he was nervous, but now, the pain came again. It was a feeling that he had not felt for a long time. However, just as Xiaohua relaxed for a moment, a wave of suspicion came over him again. That's not right. When I was fighting with the demon emperor, there was obviously some movement on the second level of the Star Moon Palace. Could it be that there are other people who have entered the Star Moon Palace? Could it be from the hidden immortal continent? Or Doshanjun? Xiaohua took a deep breath and stood up. Just as he was about to go check it out, a voice came from outside the corridor again. Damn it, this is too dangerous. If not for my nimbleness, I'm afraid I would have fallen into the turbulence. Even I feel that nothing is wrong. How could something happen to you? Now that we're here, it's our opportunity. There must be countless treasures in the Star Moon Palace. Hiss. Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. A bone-chilling feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't help but run towards the end of the corridor. When he arrived at the location of a stone tablet, Xiaohua stuck his head out and saw his own silhouette. Phoenix Body Xiaohua, Dragon Vein Xiaohua, Bone Tempering Xiaohua, and Devil Spirit Xiaohua were all standing outside the doors of the Star Moon Palace, looking up at the palace. His other self was wearing a Taoist robe and had a blank expression. Dragon Bloodline Xiaohua was wearing a golden dragon robe and the dragon horns on his head looked very ironic. Bone Tempering Xiaohua was almost naked and only wore a short shirt that covered his private parts. Phoenix Body Xiaohua was wearing colorful clothes and there were wings between his arms. As for Demon Spirit Xiaohua, He was black and there were obvious demon patterns flashing on his face. At this moment, Phoenix Body Xiao Hua's eyes were sharp and saw himself. He raised his hand and pointed. There's someone in the Bright Moon Palace? Xiao Hua was shocked and quickly shrank back. He stared at the cornice of the palace in a daze and a realization suddenly came to him. This is not the Star Moon Palace. This is the Demon Emperor's illusion. Perhaps, even if this was the Star Moon Palace, these later ones were definitely the Devil Emperor's illusions. Damn it, when did this Xiao fall into the Demon Emperor's illusion? How could he escape from this illusion? Did he escape through the palace gate? At that moment, outside the Star Moon Palace, the voices of Mo Ling Xiaohua and the others sounded again. It must be the Devil Emperor. Let's hurry up and catch up with him. After this little brother devours this Nephilim Emperor, this little brother will also be able to reach the realm of Nephilim Emperor. In the future, this little brother will be able to lend you a hand. Go. Io, what should we do now? What's wrong, fellow Taoist? What? You don't know? How would I know what fellow Taoist thinks? That's weird. Could it be because of this Star Moon Palace? What's so strange about it? Not good. Xiao Hua suddenly came to his senses and said anxiously, if these were the illusions of the Demon Emperor, it would be fine, but if they were… Damn it, why do I feel that there's something fishy about this? It's really too messy. Xiao Hua thought and carefully poked his head out again. At that moment, outside the Star Moon Palace, there was no trace of Xiao Hua and the others. They must have entered the Star Moon Palace. What exactly are they? Xiao Hua gritted his teeth and ran to the palace gate at the side of the corridor. He rushed in, looked around, and searched for A43 in his memory. Xiao Hua had just found A43 and walked to the entrance of the hall when a voice that made Xiao Hua's hair stand on end rang out in his ears. That's right. Fellow Taoist, why do you look so pale? Fellow Taoists, I seem to feel a sense of familiarity. It seems like I have been here before. How is that possible? These palaces look exactly the same. How can fellow Taoist distinguish them? And how can fellow Taoist have been to the Star Moon Palace before? I don't know either. Maybe it's just a feeling? How is that possible? Xiao Hua was a little dizzy. He could not help but raise his hand to scratch his head. At that moment, there was a clang. Xiao Hua hurriedly lowered his head and realized that the jade slip that he had put in his pocket earlier had accidentally fallen to the ground because his Taoist robe had been torn. Who is it? It was the voice of the bone-honing Xiao Hua. Everyone's footsteps rushed here. Xiao Hua only hesitated for a moment. Looking at the bloodstains all over his body and thinking about the injuries on his body, he did not dare to meet the other Xiao Hua who he did not know was real or fake. He hurriedly turned and left the A43 palace, not caring about the jade slip that had fallen to the ground. Damn it, what's going on? Xiao Hua's emotions were extremely irritable. Is the Xiao Hua inside an illusion or real? If he's real, who am I? Could it be that the entire Star Moon Palace is an illusion? Or maybe the Star Moon Palace is real and we are illusions? Xiao Hua's thoughts had turned several times when he saw the second Xiao Hua. Now, he repeatedly thought about it, but the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. The Star Moon Palace seemed to be huge and the palaces inside seemed to be endless. However, Xiao Hua could only wander around a few hundred palaces and could not really go deeper. Moreover, the Star Moon Palace was definitely not like what Dou Shanjun and Zhu Qing had said. There were many opportunities inside. At that moment, in Xiao Hua's eyes, the Star Moon Palace was a slaughterhouse. There were no opportunities to speak of. He had an impulse to escape the Star Moon Palace. However, Xiao Hua also understood that if he wanted to leave the Star Moon Palace, he could only go through the palace door from before. In front of the palace door was turbulence. He could only rely on the huge rock to leave. The huge rock had disappeared after he and the second Xiao Hua had entered. It was impossible for him to leave the Star Moon Palace. Xiao Hua even suspected that the huge rock was an illusion. As long as he stepped on the huge rock, he would definitely fall into the turbulence. The demonic emperor would not give him this chance. How can I find the demonic emperor? How can I walk out of the Star Moon Palace? Xiao Hua frowned as he shuttled through the palaces. Suddenly, the cloaked demonic emperor's words appeared in Xiao Hua's mind. Kill them, kill them. Only by killing them will you be able to leave this place. Tisk. Xiao Hua curled his lips and sneered. This demonic emperor, even in death, he did not forget to set a trap for me. As Xiao Hua thought, he crashed into a palace like a headless fly. Just as he stepped into the palace, he immediately heard a familiar voice. This is too strange. What kind of statue is this? It looks like the bones of a celestial being? Wasn't this what Xiao Hua with the phoenix body had said when he saw the statue in A71? Xiao Hua raised his head and looked over. Sure enough, he saw the second Xiao Hua with the phoenix body and the others surrounding the three-sided statue. The second Xiao Hua was also about to raise his hand to take the spirit fruit. Not good. Xiao Hua hurriedly turned his head and saw that the mirror on the stone wall was precisely his own reflection. Without thinking, he quickly retreated. Although the pain in his chest made him grimace, he did not dare to stay in this palace for a moment longer. Who? Sure enough, just as Xiao Hua retreated from the A71, the second Xiao Hua's berating voice had already sounded. Strange. Xiao Hua somewhat realized that something was wrong. Could it be that everything that I encountered earlier? Hiss. Suddenly, goosebumps appeared all over Xiao Hua's body. Could it be that before I came in, there was already another Xiao Hua who came in? No, that's impossible. Soon after, Xiao Hua denied it again. When I chased the demonic emperor to this place, I immediately saw the Star Moon Palace. There can't be another Xiao Hua in front of me. What came after must be an illusion. Xiao Hua rushed past several palaces and gradually calmed down. Seeing a 7-colored palace door in front of him, he knew that the corridor of the Star Moon Palace was outside. He breathed a sigh of relief and walked out. The corridor was as calm as before. The turbulence outside the Star Moon Palace was similarly chaotic. Streams of unknown countercurrents tangled together, producing sparks the size of a thumb. These sparks were like candlelight bursting. The power contained within immediately bombarded the turbulence, creating a huge whirlpool. Damn it, this turbulence is so powerful. I reckon that even the demonic emperor won't be able to survive after falling in. Xiao Hua pinched his chin and sneered. At this moment, footsteps came from the corridor in the distance. Xiao Hua was shocked and hurriedly raised his head. He saw the bone-honing Xiao Hua appear at the end of the corridor, full of vigilance. Damn it. Xiao Hua seemed to be used to vulgarities. He cursed and prepared to dodge. However, after running a few steps, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He stopped and thought to himself, the bone-honing Xiao Hua seemed to have been injured after leaving. Could it be that he was plotted against by the demonic emperor here? However, the demonic emperor has already been killed by me. He probably won't be in any trouble anymore, right? Fellow Taoist, you're quite fast? How did you get here so quickly? In such a short time, the bone-honing Xiao Hua actually saw Xiao Hua. He raised his hand and beckoned to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua smiled helplessly and raised his hand. I was afraid that you would encounter the demonic emperor alone, so I chased after you. However, fellow Taoist, you know that I get lost easily. See, I actually came out from this palace door. Fortunately, I met you, otherwise, as he spoke, the bone-honing Xiao Hua was already close. He raised his head and looked at the stairs not far away. This seems to lead to the second level of the Star Moon Palace. I wonder what it's like there. Let's not go now. Xiao Hua's gaze also fell on the stairs. He shook his head and said, the demonic emperor is in the Star Moon Palace. Let's go together. Ooh. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to finish speaking, the bone-honing Xiao Hua's fist appeared out of nowhere and smashed toward Xiao Hua's chest. He still shouted, Demonic Emperor, do you think I can't recognize you? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Even if you want to transform into Xiao Hua, can't you show some professionalism? Is Xiao Hua as blood-stained and bitter as you? Chapter 41:14. Xiaohua was used to being alarmed in Star Moon Palace, so he had long been on guard. Although he did not expect Honed Bones Xiaohua's sneak attack, he still easily received it. He had already fought with Honed Bones Xiaohua once before, so he was now quite familiar with it. With a push of his palm, he blocked Honed Bones Xiaohua's fist. However, the huge impact still caused intense pain in Xiaohua's chest. Xiaohua had no choice but to dodge as he shouted, "Fellow Honed Bones Xiaohua, please listen to this poor Taoist's explanation." "You are right. This poor Taoist is not Xiaohua in A71. Furthermore, that Xiaohua is still in A71. However, I am indeed Xiaohua, the Xiaohua who came in earlier. You are I's doppelganger, so don't worry, I will definitely not hurt you. What I want to say is that the bone-honing fellow Taoist who let you in earlier has been killed by the Demon Emperor. I don't know how he was killed, but there are two things that I can be sure of. First, the Demon Emperor attacked and seriously injured the bone-honing fellow Taoist near this corridor. You must be careful. Second, the Demon Emperor has already been killed by I, so you shouldn't be injured anymore." How can I believe the Demon Emperor's words? The bone-honing Xiaohua laughed. "Aren't you trying to cover it up? Are you trying to make I lower my guard?" Woo! As he spoke, the bone-honing Xiaohua's long leg kicked fiercely, smashing towards Xiaohua's head. Xiaohua knew that any explanation would be useless at this time, so he simply did not say anything. The bone-honing Xiaohua's attack was full of wind. Xiaohua raised his hands, wanting to block the attack, but there was a sharp pain in his sternum. He could only dodge and sweep his leg to the other leg of the bone-honing Xiaohua. Boom! The bone-honing Xiaohua's strength was not as good as Xiaohua's, so he was immediately knocked down by Xiaohua and fell towards the stone wall of the Star Moon Palace. Bone-honing fellow Taoist. Xiaohua jumped up from the ground and said, "I won't say much to you, just watch." Before Xiaohua could finish speaking, the bone-honing Xiaohua screamed. Xiaohua was shocked. When his gaze fell on Xiaohua's body, his face turned pale again. Although Xiaohua did not kill or even hurt bone-honing Xiaohua's heart, his kick had knocked bone-honing Xiaohua down. Bone-honing Xiaohua had landed on the protective spikes on the stone wall of the Star Moon Palace. Several spikes had pierced bone-honing Xiaohua's back, piercing deep into his heart and lungs. Xiaohua was completely dumbfounded. He hurriedly rushed over and helped Xiaohua up. He anxiously said, "I didn't want to hurt you, but you forced I too much." It would have been better if Xiaohua had not helped bone-honing Xiaohua up. As soon as he helped him up, blood gushed out. Not only did it soak bone-honing Xiaohua's body, but even Xiaohua's own Taoist robe was stained with more blood. Boom! Unfortunately, bone-honing Xiaohua did not listen to Xiaohua's explanation. He raised his hand and struck Xiaohua's neck again. Xiaohua had no choice but to let go of bone-honing Xiaohua. Bone-honing Xiaohua glared fiercely at Xiaohua as if he wanted to eat him. Xiaohua stood in place and watched bone-honing Xiaohua stagger away. He shouted, "Fellow Taoist, I am indeed not the Devil Emperor. Sigh, what's the use of explaining now?" Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and watched bone-honing Xiaohua disappear at the palace door. He then looked at the blood dripping in the corridor and thought to himself, "All words are useless. It's better to think of a way to stop this illusion." After saying that, Xiaohua turned around and came to the front of the stairs. However, when he looked at the stairs leading to the second floor of Star Moon Palace, an indescribable sense of danger came from the second floor of Star Moon Palace. Xiaohua stood there hesitantly and did not dare to go up for a long time. After all, he was empty-handed and was seriously injured. That's right, there seems to be a sword embryo inside the palace hall of A288. Xiaohua suddenly thought of the furnace inside the palace hall from before. He took a glance at the unpredictable steps, then hastily rushed into the palace hall. Looking for A288 is not particularly difficult. When Xiaohua rushed into the hall, he was stunned again. He saw that on top of the furnace, in addition to the sword embryo, there was also a crossbow. The crossbow was flickering with a dark luster just like the sword embryo. Next to the crossbow, there was also a small box with more than 10 small arrows inside. When did the crossbow come? Xiao Hua was slightly stunned and hurriedly looked at the ground. However, he saw that on the ground, the blood stain was still there. It did not seem to have changed. Xiao Hua's gaze fell on the sword embryo and the crossbow. He almost did not hesitate and took down the crossbow and the small box. After all, the power of the crossbow was still fresh in his memory. Putting the small box in his arms, he took out a small arrow and put it into the crossbow. Xiao Hua held the crossbow in his left hand and walked out of the palace with his chest puffed out. However, when he passed through a few palaces, his heart was moved again. He thought to himself, if this is an illusion, then I should think about how to break the illusion. However, how should I do it? Killing these doppelgangers and even myself should be the most decisive method. However, what if I mess up what happened before? That's right. Previously, this Xiao encountered the bone-tempering Xiao Hua in statue A71 and competed with him. If this Xiao were to go over now and disrupt their competition, then wouldn't this illusion be broken? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua hurriedly turned back. He abandoned the plan to go to the second floor of Star Moon Palace and hurriedly rushed to A271. As expected, when Xiao Hua chased down, the injured bone-honing Xiao Hua had not yet entered A271. Seeing Xiao Hua come over with the crossbow, although his body was already unable to balance, he was still frightened and raised his hand to guard. Xiao Hua said indifferently, "Bone-honing fellow Taoist, don't worry. I will definitely not hurt you. What happened before was only a misunderstanding. Follow I in." Bone-honing Xiao Hua slowly entered A271. At this time, the second Xiao Hua was in a daze in front of the statue. Hearing the sound, he hurriedly turned his head. Seeing that it was the bone-honing Xiao Hua, he hurriedly rushed over. However, he only took a few steps before his face turned pale with shock. He stood there, thinking that Xiao Hua had already walked into the palace with the crossbow in his hand. The second Xiao Hua looked at Xiao Hua, then looked at the bone-honing Xiao Hua. He was shocked at first, then he shouted, "You are the Devil Emperor." "Damned Devil Emperor, injured bone-honing fellow Taoist." Xiao Hua's heart turned cold. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. The crossbow in his left hand trembled slightly, almost shooting the black arrow. However, he still endured it and said word by word, "This poor Taoist is the real Xiao Hua. I want to ask you whether you are the Devil Emperor or not. However, this Xiao can't tell whether this is an illusion or not, and also can't tell who you are. However, for safety's sake, this Xiao wants to use some methods to break this illusion. Therefore, I won't hide it from you. Although I really want to kill you, I am still willing to let you go." The second Xiao Hua looked at the Xiao Hua that looked exactly like him. His eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. However, facing the crossbow, facing a weapon that could kill him at any time, he nodded slightly. He calmly looked at Xiao Hua, then looked at the bone-honing Xiao Hua and said, "Okay. Although I know that I am the real Xiao Hua, since fellow Taoist said so, then I will leave. However, bone-honing fellow Taoist is already injured. I ask fellow Taoist to let him rest here." The Xiao knows. To quickly food. Xiao Hua coldly swung the crossbow. He was extremely disgusted by the tone of this illusion that claimed to be Xiao Hua. If it wasn't because he wanted to try it out, Xiao Hua almost wanted to nail him to death here. After all, this illusion might be an incarnation of the Devil Emperor that might not have fallen. The second Xiao Hua nodded towards the bone-honing Xiao Hua, and left from the other palace door without hesitation. Xiao Hua said to the bone-honing Xiao Hua, "Fellow Taoist, go rest beside the statue. After I break the illusion, we will leave together." The bone-honing Xiao Hua nodded slightly. He staggered to the side of the statue, and slowly sat down. However, in merely a moment he lay on the ground again. Blood flowed from his body, and his eyes were still open. Just like the previous bone-honing Xiao Hua, he was still staring at the statue on three sides. Xiao Hua, who had already turned around and rushed out of the palace door, didn't notice this. He was still thinking about how to break the illusion. He held the crossbow and rushed towards the first palace door because he clearly knew that if nothing unexpected happened, the phoenix body Xiao Hua and the devil spirit Xiao Hua would definitely be killed by the cloaked Devil Emperor there. Sure enough, When Xiao Hua rushed into the first palace door, the phoenix body Xiao Hua and the devil spirit Xiao Hua were squatting on the high platform, surrounding the already dead dragon vein Xiao Hua. Before Xiao Hua could get close, the devil spirit Xiao Hua jumped up and kicked at Xiao Hua. He said fiercely, "Motherfucker, you still dare to ask me what happened? Weren't you the one who killed fellow Taoist Long Mai? Weren't we also asked to come here by you? What are you pretending for?" Unfortunately, this time, Xiao Hua didn't waste his breath on him. His figure flashed slightly and he berated, "Scram to the side. That was the incarnation of the Devil Emperor just now. It has nothing to do with I." As he spoke, Xiao Hua raised his eyes and stared at the pavilion on the second floor of the Star Moon Palace, waiting for the appearance of the cloaked Devil Emperor. "What did you say? The Devil Emperor can still transform in this Star Moon Palace?" The devil spirit Xiao Hua was somewhat dumbfounded. At this moment, a black shadow flashed on the second floor of the pavilion. Xiao Hua shook his hand without hesitation. Boom! A rumbling sound was heard, and the black arrow on the crossbow shot out. Pa! The black arrow hit the black shadow's left arm. The black shadow shook violently, and the black arrow pierced through the black shadow's body and nailed it to the stone wall. However, in merely a moment, another crossbow escaped from the second floor of the pavilion. Xiao Hua was frightened out of his wits and he hastily shouted, "Fellow Taoists, quickly dodge!" Boom! A huge tremor sounded, and a black light flashed by. It brushed past the face of the phoenix body Xiao Hua and hit the high platform. The small arrow buzzed, and a trace of blood appeared on the face of the phoenix body Xiao Hua. "Let's go!" Xiao Hua didn't hesitate at all. He jumped up from the ground and rushed out of the palace. The phoenix body Xiao Hua and the devil spirit Xiao Hua also dispelled their suspicions and hastily chased after him. Xiao Hua brought the two of them around a few palaces, looked around and berated, "Did you see that? Just now, it wasn't I who attacked, it was the Devil Emperor. Do you understand?" Chapter 41:15. Devil Spirit Xiao Hua was quite puzzled and asked anxiously, "Big brother, since this is Star Moon Palace, no matter if it's Taoism, Confucian cultivators, or demons, they can't transform. All of my divine abilities have disappeared without a trace. How is it possible that the Fiend Emperor can still materialize?" "Damn it!" Xiao Hua spat. "How would I know? If I knew about it, I would be able to transform too." Phoenix body Xiao Hua stared at Xiao Hua and shook his head slightly. "Although fellow Taoists saved us, I still can't believe you." "Since you don't believe me, why did you come with I?" Xiao Hua was a bit mad. However, he raised his hand and shook a finger a few times, saying, "Whatever I do, I don't need you to believe, and I don't need you to believe. Follow me to A71. Bone-honing Xiao Hua is already seriously injured. Let's gather together to discuss." Phoenix body Xiao Hua shook his head. Fellow Taoist Xiao Hua was born with divine bones. How could he be seriously injured? "Don't lie to us." Xiao Hua stomped his foot and threw the crossbow to Phoenix body Xiao Hua. "Damn it, I gave you this crossbow, you still don't believe I?" Phoenix body Xiao Hua took the crossbow and looked at Xiao Hua retreating a few steps. He said with a smile that wasn't a smile, "Fellow Taoist, you keep saying that you want I to trust you, but you don't seem to trust one either." "Forget it." Of course, Xiao Hua was alert in his heart. He could only shake his head and say, "Just wait here. Remember, you can't trust anyone. This poor Taoist will go and bring fellow Taoist tempered bones over from A7. After saying that, Xiao Hua hurriedly left. "Damn it, what's going on?" Looking at Xiao Hua's back, after a long while, Devil Spirit Xiao Hua said in a low voice, "Little brother's blood-dripping paradise is useless here. How can that Devil Emperor transform? Perhaps the Devil Emperor has magical powers that we don't know about." Phoenix body Xiao Hua glanced sideways at Devil Spirit Xiao Hua, raised the crossbow in his hand, and said, "Now, only this thing is the foundation of our survival." Just as they were talking, the sound of footsteps could be heard from the palace door in the distance. Phoenix body Xiao Hua raised his hand without hesitation. Boom! As the crossbow vibrated, A black light flashed past and nailed itself to the stone wall of Star Moon Palace. Who? Demon Spirit Xiao Hua shouted loudly as he looked towards the palace door. Of course it's I. Following the voice, Xiao Hua hurried over from the entrance of the palace. However, Xiao Hua had already changed into a new set of clothes. This set of clothes was similar to a cloak, and a large patch of boots was seeping out from the left arm of the cloak. However, Phoenix Body Xiao Hua and Devil Spirit Xiao Hua had never seen the cloaked Devil Emperor on the second floor of the Star Moon Palace. Thus, they were able to tell that something was amiss. Devil Spirit Xiao Hua quickly asked, "Big brother, why did you change your clothes?" "This Xiao's Taoist robe is already damaged, so I naturally have to change it." The cloaked Xiao Hua bitterly smiled as he looked at his body and said, "It's a pity that there aren't any Taoist robes in the Star Moon Palace. I had no choice but to randomly find one to wear." The phoenix-bodied Xiao Hua still didn't relax his vigilance. The crossbow in his hand was still pointed at the cloaked Xiao Hua as he asked, "Where is fellow Taoist Tempered Bones? Why didn't you bring him along?" "Sigh, fellow Taoist Tempered Bones is already dead." The cloaked Xiao Hua sighed. Devil Spirit Xiao Hua exclaimed, "How is that possible? Big brother Tempered Bones is a god. What method did the Devil Emperor use to kill him?" "There's no such thing as a god's bone." The cloaked Xiao Hua sneered, "In this Star Moon Palace, you and I are merely mortals. We can die at any time." Soon after, he pointed at the bow in Phoenix Body Xiao Hua's hand and said, "If it was any other time, which one of us would place this kind of weapon in our eyes? But now?" Fellow Taoist pointed this weapon at I. "My life is in fellow Taoist's hands." "Could it be that you were the one who killed fellow Taoist Tempered Bones?" Phoenix Body Xiao Hua asked indifferently. "It seems that, out of the 5 of us, only you were together with fellow Taoist Tempered Bones. All of you follow I?" The cloaked Xiao Hua sighed. "I will tell you how fellow Taoist Tempered Bones died, so that all of you can be at ease." Phoenix Body Xiao Hua looked at Devil Spirit Xiao Hua. The two of them exchanged glances. Now that the matter had reached this point, there were only 3 people in Star Moon Palace. What other choice did these two have? Fellow Taoist Phoenix Body? Fellow Taoist Devil Spirit? Where are you waiting? Suddenly, another voice came from the distant palace. It was Xiao Hua's voice. Why is there another big brother?" Devil Spirit Xiao Hua was shocked. His expression changed greatly and he was about to answer. "Shut up." The cloaked Xiao Hua berated, "Didn't I tell you? No one should believe that it is the Devil Emperor's transformation." As he spoke, the cloaked Xiao Hua brought along the Phoenix Body Xiao Hua and the Devil Spirit Xiao Hua, who were filled with doubts, through several halls and walked into A28. However, Xiao Hua's faint voice was still transmitted into their ears. "Fellow Taoists, you two are already in a very dangerous situation. You must not trust anyone." Xiao Hua quickly left the Phoenix Body Xiao Hua and the Devil Spirit Xiao Hua. They passed through several palaces with great familiarity and arrived at Palace Hall A31. However, not only did they not see the bone-tempering Xiao Hua in the palace hall, even his corpse was nowhere to be seen. "Damn it, what's going on?" Xiao Hua was somewhat bewildered. He lowered his head and looked at the bloodstains on the ground. "Previously, I didn't pay attention to how the first Tempered Bones fellow Taoist disappeared. Now, even the second Tempered Bones fellow Taoist has disappeared." However, the bloodstains on the ground were still obvious. Xiao Hua followed the bloodstains to the corridor outside Star Moon Palace. He saw the bloodstains disappear at the edge of the corridor. Needless to say, Tempered Bones Xiao Hua's corpse was thrown into the turbulence outside Star Moon Palace. Could it be that it was done by the cloaked Devil Emperor who was injured by me? Xiao Hua suddenly woke up. His heart jumped and he cried out in alarm, "Oh no, that Phoenix Body fellow Taoist and Devil Spirit fellow Taoist are in danger." While speaking, Xiao Hua hurriedly rushed back to the palace and went back the way he came. Boom! A faint sound of an arrow was heard. Xiao Hua was even more anxious. He shouted loudly, "Phoenix Body fellow Taoist? Devil Spirit fellow Taoist? Where are you waiting?" Seeing that no one answered, Xiaohua was afraid that the two surviving clones would fall into the hands of the Devil Emperor. He shouted again, "Two fellow Taoists, you are already in danger. Don't trust anyone." Unfortunately, when Xiaohua chased into the palace, there was no trace of Phoenix Body Xiaohua and Devil Spirit Xiaohua. Damn it, we still fell into the trap. Xiaohua was somewhat angry. He frowned and pondered. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. A288. That's right, why are there bloodstains there? Who could have written this? It must be the Devil Emperor. While thinking, Xiaohua hurriedly rushed out of the palace and rushed towards A288. At this time, Phoenix Body Xiaohua and Devil Spirit Xiaohua had already followed the cloaked Xiaohua into A288's palace. They saw a refining cauldron in front of them. The fire inside the cauldron was boiling. An object that looked like a sword embryo was quietly floating above the fire. Devil Spirit Xiaohua stared blankly and asked curiously, "Big brother, what is this?" "Look at the sword embryo. This is fellow Taoist tempered bones." The cloaked Xiaohua's tone carried a hint of sorrow. He reached into his bosom as if he wanted to take something out. The attention of the Devil Spirit Xiaohua and the Phoenix Xiaohua was drawn to the sword embryo. Whoosh! At this moment, the cloaked Xiaohua suddenly took out a small sword from his hand and stabbed towards the Devil Spirit Xiaohua in a flash. Facing the cloaked Xiaohua who was holding a small sword, the Devil Spirit Xiaohua didn't have any power to fight back. He stared dumbfoundedly at the small sword ruthlessly piercing his heart, his face filled with disbelief. Cloaked Xiaohua simply didn't look at Devil Spirit Xiaohua's life or death. His feet slid. Following the momentum of the sword, he once again stabbed Phoenix Body Xiaohua's chest. Obviously, he had already calculated this beforehand. Ping! Although Phoenix Body Xiaohua was somewhat caught unprepared, he still waved his bow. The black arrow flew towards Cloaked Xiaohua's face. Cloaked Xiaohua's face carried a sneer. He waved his small sword. With a chi sound, it precisely hit the body of the black arrow. However, even though the cloaked Xiaohua's body was greatly shaken, the black arrow was still aimed at the arm of the cloaked Xiaohua at the bow of the ship. However, after the cloaked Xiaohua retreated, he still rushed forward. The Phoenix Body Xiaohua helplessly brandished his bow and began to fight with the cloaked Xiaohua. Devil Spirit Xiaohua was seriously injured in one blow. However, he still didn't die. His complexion was deathly pale. Just like Tempered Bones Xiaohua before, he staggered out of the palace door and staggered to escape to the other palaces. Behind him, Phoenix Body Xiaohua was no match for Cloaked Xiaohua who was holding a small sword. After more than 10 moves, Cloaked Xiaohua's small sword pierced Phoenix Body Xiaohua's body. Blood splattered. In just a moment, Phoenix Body Xiaohua was pierced by Cloaked Xiaohua until his body was full of bloody holes. He collapsed on the ground. He couldn't be more dead. Phoenix Body Xiaohua's eyes also didn't close. He had the same appearance as Tempered Bones Xiaohua. Fellow Devil Spirit? Hearing the sound of a bow and arrow coming from A28, Xiaohua was greatly alarmed and hurriedly quickened his pace. However, before he could approach, Devil Spirit Xiaohua's staggered figure flashed past one side of the palace. Xiaohua hurriedly turned and ran towards the palace door. However, although there were bloodstains on the ground in front of Xiaohua, Devil Spirit Xiaohua's figure was still nowhere to be seen. Even when Xiaohua chased to the stairs leading to the second floor of Star Moon Palace, he still didn't see Devil Spirit Xiaohua. Looking at the bloodstains on the stairs, Xiaohua was somewhat hesitant. After experiencing so many life and death situations, he still hadn't reached the second floor of Star Moon Palace. However, after thinking for a moment, Xiaohua clenched his teeth and stepped onto the stairs. Contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, the second floor of Star Moon Palace was silent. Looking at the style, it was similar to the first floor. There were corridors and some spikes and textures. Between the spikes, there were also some palace doors with colorful clouds floating in the air. Outside the corridors, there was even a raging turbulence. Xiaohua lowered his head to take a look. The bloodstains extended towards a corner of Star Moon Palace. He thought for a moment and carefully walked over. After confirming that Devil Spirit Xiaohua wasn't hiding at the corner, he turned around. Looking at the corner, there was a palace that was similarly covered by colorful clouds. The bloodstains led to the palace door. "Fellow devil spirit," Xiaohua whispered, "I have come. I definitely won't hurt you, big brother. Oh, don't kill me." Devil spirit Xiaohua's weak voice sounded from within the palace. Xiaohua sighed and said, "Don't worry. After all, you are Ai's clone. Now." Chapter 41:16. As Xiaohua spoke, he was on guard as he walked into the palace. However, when he walked into the palace, the latter half of his sentence was choked back. Another kind of chill rose from the bottom of his heart. He was somewhat dumbfounded as he stood in front of the palace door. Everything in front of him was beyond his imagination. He was really at a loss. This was a palace that was much bigger than before. The words, "YI," floated on the roof of the palace, and on the bluestone floor of the palace, there were blood-stained corpses of demon spirit Xiaohua. Xiaohua did not have divine consciousness, so it was hard to count. However, with a sweep of the naked eye, there were probably tens of thousands of corpses. Moreover, under these corpses, there were many white bones. It was unknown how many years ago these white bones belonged to demon spirit Xiaohua who had died here. And these dead demon spirit Xiaohua were all staring at Xiaohua with their eyes wide open. At this moment, the only living demon spirit Xiaohua was crawling on the ground, trying his best to crawl towards a corner of the palace. He was trying his best to hide in a pile of demon spirit Xiaohua's corpses that had long stopped breathing. He was still shouting, "Big brother! Don't kill me! Big brother! Don't kill me!" This. Xiaohua looked at the countless demon spirit Xiaohua's corpses and felt a little dizzy. After a moment, he opened his mouth and said, "Don't be afraid, I won't kill you." Unfortunately, when Xiaohua finished speaking, demon spirit Xiaohua had already stopped breathing. His eyes were like the other demon spirit Xiaohua's corpses, staring at Xiaohua with horror in his eyes. Damn it! What is going on? Xiaohua was so weak that he could not breathe. He slowly walked out of the palace, his mind blank. Why did so many demon spirit friends die? Could it be I'm not the first to enter Star Moon Palace? Thinking of this, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He quickly walked to the side of the corridor and leaned over to look at Star Moon Palace's door. He wanted to see if there was a third Xiaohua and his doppelganger. However, wherever Xiaohua looked, his body was nailed to the spot like a clay statue. His face turned pale again as he looked at the first level of Xingyue Palace in disbelief. Over there, two figures were fighting. One of them was wearing a cloak, the same one he had encountered previously. The other held a small sword in his hand. It was the second Xiaohua. Xiaohua stared at the corpse for a moment and discovered something strange. He remembered that he did not assassinate the cloaked Devil Emperor. Instead, he forced the cloaked Devil Emperor into the turbulence. However, beneath him, the second Xiaohua held a small sword and forced the cloaked Devil Emperor into the corridor. Then, the second Xiaohua stabbed the cloaked Devil Emperor's chest several times in succession and killed him. However, when the second Xiaohua killed the cloaked Devil Emperor and removed the cloak, not to mention the second Xiaohua, even Xiaohua himself was stunned once again. That was because Xiaohua's corpse was beneath the cloak. The two Xiaohus, one standing on the first level of Xingyue Palace and the other standing on the second level of Xingyue Palace, were both dumbfounded when they saw the corpse covered in wounds. Damn it, I always thought that the cloak belonged to the Devil Emperor. The previous illusions were also created by the Devil Emperor. Now, it seems that I was wrong. I was extremely wrong. All of these Xiaohus are Xiaohus. The same thought rose in the minds of the two Xiaohus at the same time. However, before Xiaohua could think any further, the second Xiaohua raised his hand and took the cloaked corpse in his hand. He gently placed it on the side of the corridor and paused for a moment. Then, he released his hand and the corpse fell into the turbulence and disappeared. The moment the cloaked Xiaohua's corpse fell into the turbulence, something that made Xiaohua's body tremble violently happened again. A voice that Xiaohua was extremely familiar with drifted over again. Damn it, this is too dangerous. If it weren't for my nimbleness, I'm afraid I would have fallen into the turbulence. Even I felt that nothing was wrong. How could something happen to you, fellow Taoist? Now that we're here, it's our opportunity. There must be countless treasures in the Star Moon Palace. The third Xiaohua, the Phoenix Body Xiaohua, the Dragon Bloodline Xiaohua, the Bone Tempering Xiaohua, and the Demon Spirit Xiaohua, stood outside the door of the Star Moon Palace and looked up at the Star Moon Palace. When he looked at the second Xiaohua, he seemed to have also heard the voice. He paused at the side of the corridor and ran towards the other end. When he reached a stone tablet, he stuck his head out again. When he saw the Demon Spirit Xiaohua, he hastily shrank back and stared at the cornice of the palace in a daze. At this moment, outside the Star Moon Palace, the voices of the Demon Spirit Xiaohua and the others sounded again. It must be the Devil Emperor. Let's hurry up and catch up with him. After this little brother devours this Nephilim Emperor, this little brother will also be able to reach the realm of Nephilim Emperor. In the future, this little brother will be able to lend you a hand. Let's go. Io, what should we do? What's wrong, fellow Taoist? What? You don't know? How would I know what fellow Taoist is thinking? This is a little strange. Could it be because of the Star Moon Palace? What's strange about it? As the third Xiaohua led the 4 clones into the Star Moon Palace, the second Xiaohua carefully stuck his head out again. After looking for a moment, he hurriedly turned around and ran into the Star Moon Palace. Damn it! Xiaohua, who was standing at a high place, saw this strange scene and immediately understood. Needless to say, this is not the Star Moon Palace. This is the Devil Emperor's illusion. Or, even if this is the Star Moon Palace, these later ones must be the Devil Emperor's illusion. Damn it, when did I fall into the Devil Emperor's illusion? How can I escape from this illusion? Do I escape through the palace door? At this moment, the scene of Xiaohua attacking the cloaked Devil Emperor, attacking the cloaked Xiaohua appeared in Xiaohua's mind again. The cloaked Xiaohua's words also rang in his ears. Kill them, kill them. Only by killing them can we escape. I understand. Xiaohua looked at the empty first floor of the Star Moon Palace and narrowed his eyes. He said word by word, only by killing all the people who came after I, the Bone-Honed Xiaohua, the Dragon Bloodline Xiaohua, the Phoenix Body Xiaohua and the Devil Spirit Xiaohua, will those stones be able to appear. Only then will the other group of people outside the Star Moon Palace be able to enter. I'm afraid, only by doing this, can I escape from the Star Moon Palace. Of course, if it's like the cloaked Xiaohua who escaped into the turbulence alive, he should be able to escape from the turbulence as well. The problem is, if I were to jump out now, it would be different from if I were to be forced down in the past. The time and place would be different. If I were to be forced down, I might be able to escape. But if I were to jump down now, I might not be able to escape. Damn it, no matter what, no matter how I think about it, the only thing I need to do now is to kill the 5 people who just entered the Star Moon Palace. This is something that must be done. Moreover, now that things have come to this, even if I don't take action, those 2 Xiaohus will definitely take action. I am now seriously injured, how can I be their match? Rather than being killed by them, I'd rather I kill them. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's heart gradually hardened. After thinking for a moment, he quickly ran up the stairs from the corridor on the 2nd floor. Hearing the sound of his own footsteps, Xiaohua suddenly recalled that after he killed the cloaked Xiaohua, he thought that there was no one else in the Star Moon Palace. However, weren't the footsteps above his head the same as the sound of his running? Wasn't it the same as the previous one who ran? He had tried so hard to break out of the illusion, but in the end, he still fell into the illusion. Xiaohua thought and was about to walk down the stairs when he heard a familiar voice. It was the second Xiaohua talking to the third Xiaohua who had honed his bones. Fellow Taoist, you're quite fast, aren't you? How did you get here so quickly? Of course, I was afraid that you would encounter the Devil Emperor alone, so I specially chased after you. However, fellow Taoist, you also know that I get lost easily. See, I actually came out from this palace door. Fortunately, I met you, otherwise, it's better not to go now. The Devil Emperor is in the Star Moon Palace. Let's go together. Woo! While they were talking, the sound of punches and kicks came from below. The voice of the bone-honing Xiaohua was even more obvious. Devil Emperor, do you think I can't recognize you? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Even if you want to transform into Xiaohua, can't you show some professionalism? Do you think Xiaohua has such a blood-stained, bitter, and vengeful appearance? Xiaohua stood on the stairs on the second floor and listened coldly because he knew that the second Xiaohua would kill the bone-honing Xiaohua by accident. Sure enough, with a boom, the second Xiaohua shouted, "Fellow Taoist tempered bones, this is an illusion. This poor Taoist has just killed a person who looks exactly like this poor Taoist and is wearing a cloak. This poor Taoist won't say much to you, just watch." Before the second Xiaohua could finish speaking, the third Xiaohua who had honed his bones screamed, "Fellow Taoist, I am indeed not the Devil Emperor." The second Xiaohua tried his best to explain, but the third Xiaohua who had honed his bones clearly did not listen. Then, there was a series of staggering footsteps that gradually faded away. The first floor of the Star Moon Palace was deathly silent, but the second floor Xiaohua's heart also clenched. He thought that he knew that the second Xiaohua must be standing on the stairs leading to the second floor and pondering, just like what he did before. However, he could not guarantee that the second Xiaohua would give up like him. After all, the second Xiaohua killed the cloaked Xiaohua. Whether it was what he said to the third Xiaohua or what he did, it was not the same as what he did. Fortunately, after a moment, Xiaohua heard the sound of the second Xiaohua leaving quickly. Xiaohua knew that the second Xiaohua went to A28 to look for crossbows. He hurriedly came down from the second floor and rushed into the first floor of the Star Moon Palace. However, after passing by several halls, Xiaohua encountered the staggering bone-honing Xiaohua. The bone-honing Xiaohua immediately clenched his fists and looked at Xiaohua with extreme caution. Xiaohua coldly glanced at him and hurriedly walked past him, ignoring him. The bone-honing Xiaohua looked at Xiaohua's back and fear appeared in his eyes. Chapter 41:17. Xiaohua quickly rushed to the A71 hall. When he entered the hall, he didn't forget to look at the stone wall. Sure enough, there was another faint bloodstain there, and it smelled a little bloody. "Oh, fellow Taoist, why did you turn back? Fellow Taoist Long Mai didn't come back with you?" At this time, in the A71 hall, Phoenix Body Xiaohua and Devil Spirit Xiaohua were each holding a spirit fruit and tasting it with interest. Hearing footsteps, they were very surprised to see Xiaohua walk in. Phoenix Body Xiaohua asked with a smile, "Big brother? Why do you have injuries on your body?" Xiaohua asked even more. Xiaohua's gaze was extremely complicated as he looked at the two people. He couldn't bear it in his heart. After all, it was his clone. However, after a few breaths, Xiaohua said faintly, "Fellow Taoist Long Mai went to A31 first. You guys go and meet him now." After speaking, Xiaohua pointed to the hall door leading to A31, and he turned and walked to another hall door. "Fellow Taoist," Phoenix Body Xiaohua said curiously, "we will go now. However, fellow Taoist, are you not going to A31? "I naturally have to go," Xiaohua replied without turning his head. "However, before going, this Xiao wants to find something." "Okay, then big brother, go quickly and come back quickly. We will wait for big brother in A31 hall." Devil Spirit Xiaohua said with a smile and pulled Phoenix Body Xiaohua in the direction Xiaohua pointed. They didn't know that they were now walking on a road of no return. Xiaohua walked out of the hall and quickly came to A28. Sure enough, the second Xiaohua was no longer here. Moreover, there was a crossbow and a small box in the cauldron. Especially, next to the cauldron, Phoenix Body Xiaohua's corpse was full of bloody holes lying on the ground. In front of him, there were 5 big words written in blood: "Murderer's original body Xiaohua." Xiaohua raised his hand and took the crossbow and the small box. He squatted down expressionlessly and erased the 5 words written by Phoenix Body Xiaohua. He dipped his hand in the blood on the ground and wrote, "Go to A31. Then, when he got up, he saw a neatly folded cloak next to the cauldron. Xiaohua didn't hesitate to pick up the cloak and put it on. Then, he raised his hand and picked up Phoenix Body Xiaohua's corpse and quickly left A28. Immediately after, Xiaohua walked back to A71. At this time, the bone-honing Xiaohua had already fallen dead beside the three-faced statue. Xiaohua's other hand similarly picked up his corpse and walked to the corridor outside the eaves of the Star Moon Palace. When Xiaohua casually flung his hand, the bone-honing Xiaohua and Phoenix Body Xiaohua's corpses crashed into the turbulence outside the Star Moon Palace and instantly disappeared. After doing this, Xiaohua turned around and quickly rushed to the second floor. He casually found a hall door and entered. Then, according to the same pattern as the first floor of the Star Moon Palace, he easily found the hall B31. When Xiaohua entered the hall door, he was welcomed by a small pavilion. Xiaohua leaned forward and saw Dragon Vein Xiaohua standing on the high platform of A31. He also happened to see Xiaohua with a glance. "Fellow?" Dragon Vein Xiaohua was a little surprised and shouted, "Didn't you go to A31? Unfortunately, before Dragon Vein Xiaohua finished speaking, Xiaohua raised his hand. Boom! A black arrow shot out and nailed Dragon Vein Xiaohua to the high platform. Dragon Vein Xiaohua screamed. Outside the hall, Phoenix Body Xiaohua and Devil Spirit Xiaohua exclaimed, "Fellow Dragon Vein, what's going on?" Xiaohua hurriedly squatted down and used his cloak to cover his face. At this time, he heard Dragon Vein Xiaohua's weak voice again. It's Xiaohua, the main body killed I." Dragon Vein Xiaohua hadn't finished speaking when a burst of hurried footsteps came from outside the hall again. Needless to say, this was the third Xiaohua walking in. Sure enough, the third Xiaohua's extremely innocent voice sounded out. "Fellow Taoist Phoenix Physique, what's going on? Why are you all here? Damn it, you're still asking us what happened. Weren't you the one who killed fellow Dragon Vein? Weren't we also asked to come here by you? What are you pretending for?" I just heard a rumbling sound and hurried over from A31. "How could I kill fellow Dragon Vein? What's more, where is this place? I have never been here before." "You keep pretending. You said you wanted I and fellow Taoist Devil Spirit to come to A31. Isn't this A31? Hearing this, Xiaohua sneered and slowly stood up. He extended his crossbow. "Quickly dodge." The third Xiaohua shouted. His figure hurriedly rolled on the ground and rolled towards the hall door above the high platform. As for Xiaohua's crossbow, with two loud boom sounds, Xiaohua's Phoenix Body Xiaohua and Devil Spirit Xiaohua were killed in A31's palace hall. Soon after, Xiaohua raised his hand again. Boom! A black arrow chased after the third Xiaohua and nailed into the stone wall. Seeing the third Xiaohua disappear, Xiaohua lifted his leg and jumped down from the second floor of the pavilion and chased after it. However, after looking for several hall doors, he finally walked to a hall door and looked at it with a cold smile. He clearly remembered that he should be hiding inside this hall door, so he didn't hesitate to raise his hand. Boom! The crossbow vibrated and the black arrow rushed into the hall door. However, the miserable scream he expected didn't come. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed and hurriedly rushed into the hall. However, he saw that his black arrow fell on the bluestone, but there was no figure of the third Xiaohua inside this hall. Damn it! How could Xiaohua not know that he had already missed the real hall door where the third Xiaohua was hiding? He hurriedly turned around to search. Unfortunately, after searching for a while, he did not find anything. Xiaohua simply rushed towards the corridor of the Star Moon Palace. Sure enough, just as he walked out of the door of the palace with the rainbow clouds, he saw the third Xiaohua standing at the steps. Xiaohua did not hesitate to raise his hand. Whoosh! The black arrow in the crossbow shot towards the third Xiaohua. Unfortunately, at the same time that Xiaohua raised his hand, the third Xiaohua seemed to be on guard. He suddenly lowered his head and the black brilliance of the black arrow brushed past the third Xiaohua's head. It fell into the countercurrent outside the corridor and immediately disappeared without a trace. The third Xiaohua hurriedly fled into the distance. Xiaohua took out a black arrow from his cloak and placed it on the crossbow. He followed the third Xiaohua and chased after him. Seeing that there was a turn in front of him, Xiao Hua was delighted. Boom! The sound of the crossbow rang out again. A black light shot towards the left side of the Star Moon Palace like lightning because Xiao Hua remembered that he had dodged to the left. However, the strange thing was that the third Xiao Hua didn't dodge to the left. Instead, he rushed to the right and disappeared. Damn it! Xiao Hua saw that the third Xiao Hua didn't stop at the turn. He knew that what he had encountered was different from what he had done before. He cursed and chased after him. However, just as Xiao Hua reached the turn, a light whoosh sound rang out and a sword light suddenly pierced towards him. Xiao Hua turned pale with fright. He had guessed the process, but he hadn't guessed the result. Although the third Xiao Hua had fled to the right, he still hid at the turn. Seeing that his crossbow was knocked away by the third Xiao Hua's small sword, Xiao Hua helplessly waved his fist and fought with the third Xiao Hua. The result was needless to say. The third Xiao Hua was also Xiao Hua. He held a small sword in his hand. No matter if it was the first Xiao Hua or the third Xiao Hua, no one could win against them. In the end, Xiao Hua was forced to the side of the corridor by the third Xiao Hua. However, the third Xiao Hua's swordsmanship was like a flower. He asked coldly, "Demon Emperor, if you tell me honestly how to get out of this Xingyue palace, I might spare your life." Kill them, kill them. Xiao Hua knew that he had no other way out. He could only shout in a low voice as if he was roaring, "Only by killing them all will I be able to escape, damn it." The third Xiao Hua was also enraged. The small sword in his hand suddenly pierced towards Xiao Hua's chest. He shouted, "Even at this point, you still haven't forgotten to sow discord. Everyone in this Xingyue palace has been killed by you. Who else do you want to kill?" Pooh! The small sword pierced Xiao Hua's chest. That Xiao Hua raised his hand and smashed the wrist of the third Xiao Hua. The third Xiao Hua raised his leg in pain and kicked. Peng! Xiao Hua was kicked out of the corridor by the third Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua screamed in pain. His chest fell into the turbulence with the small sword in it. Xiao Hua's body floated in the turbulence. After an unknown period of time, Xiao Hua's figure emerged from the turbulence. See! Xiao Hua was a little confused. He turned his head and looked around. It was also in this moment that an extremely dim green light flashed between Xiao Hua's eyebrows. It instantly disappeared. Xiao Hua muttered to himself, where is this? It was also at this moment that a voice that Xiao Hua was extremely familiar with, one that seemed to be in his dreams, rang out, "Husband, go ahead and fly towards the depths of QC. You are no match for them. However, if you head east, you will definitely find a way out." Xiao Hua was shocked. He hurriedly looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw the unforgettable Xue Xue flying out from a bamboo forest. Her face was snow-white. She stared at Xiao Hua and said word by word. Her eyes were filled with attachment, reluctance, and endless affection. He, a foundation establishment girl? Perfected do. He suddenly appeared not far behind Xiao Hua and laughed arrogantly. I join in? Another voice that Xiao Hua was extremely familiar with strangely rang out. Ah? Xiao Hua was completely dumbfounded. Master! Why you here? Of course, at the edge of the bamboo forest opposite Xue Xue, a white-haired, wrinkled face helplessly revealed himself. A pair of pitch-black eyes were filled with anger. Chapter 41:18. A teacher for a day, a father for life. Helpless didn't even look at Xiao Hua. He only faced the two nascent soul cultivators and said indifferently, "Although I didn't teach you anything, but I see you as my disciple. You will always be my disciple." Are you all sick? Kind child slapped his hand, and the pressure above his head surged, instantly making Helpless unable to move. My husband, farewell. Xue Xue glanced at Xiao Hua, and her eyes turned red. Then, a layer of blood mist appeared in her body. With a loud boom, the blood mist suddenly exploded and covered Reverend Du. Wife! Xiao Hua looked at this heart-wrenching scene and raised his right hand slightly. Seeing the blood mist gushing out, he cried out sorrowfully, "Boom!" At this moment, beside kind child, Helpless also self-exploded, turning into a blood mist of the same shape and covering kind child. Master! Xiaohua's heart twitched again. He looked in the direction of the kuei he see in the distance and rushed over without hesitation. Woo-woo. Xiaohua's body flashed with lightning as he rushed forward crazily. There seemed to be an invisible barrier in the air in front of him. Xiaohua fell into it and created thousands of fireflies and sparks, illuminating the air. In the light, the invisible barrier was torn apart. Inside the invisible barrier, a majestic palace slowly appeared. As Xiaohua's figure swayed, Xiaohua's figure strangely shattered and reformed, and a brand new Xiaohua appeared in the air. In the midst of shattering and reforming, Dragon Vein Xiaohua, Bone Tempering Xiaohua, Phoenix Body Xiaohua, and Devil Spirit Xiaohua slowly appeared behind him. Xiaohua shook his head, trying his best to get rid of the heavy feeling. However, the more he shook his head, the more confused his mind became. Xiaohua could only raise his head. When he saw everything in front of him, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Is this the Star Moon Palace?" The majestic palace in the invisible barrier emitted a faint 9-colored light as it stood there. The 3 big words above the palace door could be seen clearly. It said, "Star Moon Palace." How is this possible? Xiaohua was dumbfounded. Didn't Do Shanjun say that the Star Moon Palace is somewhere in the hidden immortal continent? How can it be in the space of the ruins? Fellow Taoist, have you forgotten? At this moment, another voice rang out from behind Xiaohua. Zhu Qing from Zhaixing Lu said very clearly that the Star Moon Palace is a relic left behind by the upper realm in the 3 continents. The upper realm he spoke of, is it not the ruins here? Xiaohua was shocked. He suddenly turned his head and saw Xiaohua of the Dragon Vein standing behind him. Beside Dragon Vein Xiaohua, Bone Tempering Xiaohua, Phoenix Body Xiaohua, and Devil Spirit Xiaohua were also standing with smiles on their faces. You all. Xiaohua was bewildered. He pointed at the 4 clones, not knowing what to say. The Devil Spirit Xiaohua also smiled and said, "Brothers, let's speed up." When the Devil Emperor flew to this place, he actually disappeared without a trace. He must have discovered the Star Moon Palace hidden in the void. He must be hiding in the Star Moon Palace. Let's hurry over and kill him, so that we can take revenge for injuring us earlier. When Xiaohua brought his 4 doppelgangers and flew towards the so-called Star Moon Palace at an extremely fast speed, a strange black shadow appeared outside the invisible barrier. This black shadow was extremely faint, as if it had no form or substance. This black shadow looked at Xiaohua's fleeing figure and opened its mouth. A golden light mixed with blood-red light flew out from the invisible barrier and landed in the black shadow. That black shadow trembled slightly and groaned softly, as if it was enjoying it very much. However, after a moment, the black shadow made a strange noise again. Damn it! This Xiaohua! What kind of reincarnation is he? This is about to be broken down by a tribulation. Why hasn't his physical body been completely shattered yet? Why can the 4 clones be broken down every time we pass through an illusion? When exactly will I be able to completely devour his essence? I can't possibly let him endlessly kill my clones here, right? However, it only lasted for a short while before the voice burst into laughter again. Luckily, I had nothing to do, so I went down to the lower realm to take a stroll and happened to meet such a human with such abundant energy essence. Luckily, this human was greedy for the cloning technique and didn't focus on the immemorial Tao. That's why I was able to take advantage of him. This human's essence is so strange. Just by relying on this human's essence, I should be able to obtain the devil fruit of the supreme heavenly demon, right? So what if he's the reincarnation of a heavenly god? Falling into the hands of a heavenly demon king like me, he's just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. A tribulation of tempering and killing is enough to crush a true heavenly god's essence. I just need to wait for a moment. When this human kills a few more of my clones and sends his essence into the illusion, I should be able to obtain the devil fruit, right? The closer we get to the end, the more we can't be careless. This human's luck is extremely strong. I definitely can't let him make a comeback. However, In this illusion, the sky is the universe and the earth is the earth. The so-called yin and yang and the 5 elements are the principles. All the illusions in the illusion are set up according to his thoughts. Everything is the same as what he thinks. What's special is that there's no divine ability of the supreme heavenly demon in the illusion at all. It's just a simple karmic cycle. No heavenly god can sense anything strange, so how can a little human cultivator notice it? I don't believe that a little human like him can escape from my hands. At this point, ripples appeared in the space behind the black shadow. The black shadow laughed and said, "Treasure's essence, come quickly. When the last number of calamities arrives, this lord will be able to bear the devil fruit." Haha, I don't know which heavenly god set this up. In the end, it actually benefited me. Sure enough, with a flash of a black shadow, the scenery of the entire space was completely void. And with the appearance of Xiao Hua's figure from the ripples, the bamboo forest, the pursuit, and the story of Shue's helplessness played out once again. Xiao Hua was still grief-stricken as he rushed into a new cycle of karma. Gradually, the whole space began to change. Black demonic patterns began to appear. These demonic patterns were different from the ones around the Devil Emperor. They were more ethereal, and each demonic pattern contained Sanskrit sounds. As the demonic patterns gathered toward the black shadow, indescribable small worlds appeared and disappeared rapidly in the light and shadow. The whole space was shrouded in a kind of solemnity, like the suffocation before the thunder tribulation. The black shadow was no longer as empty as before. Gradually, there was a sense of heaviness. The heaviness was so great that it was like everything in the world was condensed in the void. In the solemn atmosphere, there were tiny, almost imperceptible waves, like innumerable small insects appearing inexplicably in the whole space. The light and shadow that were still there were completely annihilated by the waves. An indescribable darkness gradually shrouded the space, as if a supreme devil kingdom had silently descended. Ah! In the silent darkness, the black shadow suddenly laughed strangely. After billions of years of waiting, I finally got everything I wanted. As soon as the laughter stopped, another weak ripple appeared from the side of the space. Xiao Hua's abnormally thin figure appeared. At the same time, everything that was engraved in Xiao Hua's bones and heart appeared again. Everything was exactly the same as before. The profound qi in the illusion gradually flew out. As long as it fell into the black shadow's body, Xiao Hua's profound qi would be absorbed by the black shadow, and the entire space would change again. At this moment, the entire space was vibrating, as if the black shadow couldn't suppress its joy. Husband, just fly to the depths of the Kuai-He Sea. You are not their opponent, but if you fly to the east, you will find a way out. Shui was still that determined. Her face was snow-white, and her eyes gazed at Xiao Hua. She said word by word, her eyes were filled with attachment, reluctance, and endless affection. At this moment, if the previous cycle continued, it would definitely appear again and explode again. But at this moment, a green light lingered between Xiao Hua's eyebrows. Thousands of soul strands flew out. Xiao Hua's eyes immediately brightened. However, the space was already abnormally dark. The soul strands flew out like moths to a flame. The strands broke, and the demonic patterns surged wildly, wanting to extinguish the only hope in this space. Shui. Xiao Hua's voice was very vague and slow, but he said with extreme determination, I know that you are just an illusion. I also know that you can't hear what I am saying. In fact, when I fell into the illusion for the first time, I already knew what was happening in front of me. However, I was only clear-headed for a moment. The moment I rushed out of the illusion of the Star Moon Palace, I knew what I was doing, and I knew what I needed to do. Previously, I used this moment of freedom to accumulate soul cultivation divine arts, preparing to break this illusion. However, after a few times, I knew that even if I accumulated more soul cultivation secret arts, I would not be able to break out of this illusion. Because this illusion is the tribulation of my primordial spirit, a battle between my primordial spirits. With my own strength, I am powerless to break out of it. However, just as I gave up, I saw you. Although you are an illusion, you are really standing in front of me. When I saw you, I could not help but think of everything that happened before. When I saw you, all my efforts, all my hardships, all my hopes turned to nothing. My only goal is to be able to hold your hand again and tell you my love. Now, I have finally accumulated an aeon of tribulation. An aeon of tribulation is not enough to support me to escape from the illusion. However, this aeon of tribulation is enough for me to say these words to you, enough for me to hold your hand. As he spoke, Xiaohua reached out his right hand to hold the right hand of the illusion of Xue Xue. He muttered again, "There is no fate, no tribulation, no love, no hatred. My love, you are the netherworld lotus of the yellow springs. I am the guardian stone of the blood sea. I am willing to wait for you for billions of years. I am willing to accompany you for eternity. However, that time is too long, that loneliness is too cold. For your life, for your survival, I am not willing to accompany you until the end of time. I am not willing to accompany you for eternity. I am not willing to be the venerable one in the heavens. I am not willing to be the king of hell. For this moment, I am willing to give up everything. I only want to gently hold your hand and tell you, I love you." Chapter 41:19. Xiaohua said in a daze. His originally illusory figure gradually dissipated, but he still persisted in reaching out his right hand to grab the illusory Xue Xue's hand, even though he knew in his heart that in this lifetime, he would never be able to hold that warm and smooth hand again. Ha! The entire space was filled with a strange laughter that sounded like a night owl. It seemed to be extremely disdainful of human emotions like Xiaohua. However, as soon as the laughter ended, Xiaohua's surprised voice sounded. His originally blurry consciousness was suddenly maintained at that place. Furthermore, he could clearly feel that there was a kind of warmth and trembling coming from his hand. Xiaohua lowered his head in disbelief. He saw that on his right hand, there was a broken heart-shaped symbol that was emitting a holy light in the pitch-black devil nation. Furthermore, as the light was projected onto Xue Xue's illusion, the same spot where Xiaohua was holding Xue Xue's right hand also emitted a holy light. The two rays of light flickered as if they were breathing, but also as if they were talking to each other. As the light flickered, a beautiful woman's figure appeared in Xue Xue's illusion. The woman's face was filled with surprise and joy. Although the woman's appearance couldn't be seen, she was holding Xue Xue's right hand with the same strength as Xiaohua's. Their fingers were interlocked. "My love," Xiaohua moaned. He couldn't help but shout, "You're finally here, boom." As soon as Xiaohua's voice fell, the imprints on their right hands trembled at the same time. They flew into the air and landed between the two of them. With a boom, they transformed into a complete heart-shaped symbol. Swoosh! There was another crisp sound of a silver bottle shattering. From above the two of them, a pillar of moonlight pierced through the air and shone on the heart-shaped symbol. Then the entire space rumbled like water. The moonlight was like water. In just a moment, the entire pitch-black devil nation was illuminated. Damned moon beast. Do you really think that you're the moon elder that the humans speak of? A voice that came from nowhere echoed in the space. Then, like a tide of demonic patterns, the sound of Sanskrit was like thunder. The entire space was turned upside down. How could moonlight defeat the devil nation? Could true love resist heartlessness? Seeing that the moonlight was about to be extinguished, Xiaohua, who was holding the woman's hand, suddenly had his eyes lit up. He waved his left hand at a spot in the air. Under the dim moonlight, a black light that was even darker than the devil nations flashed. This time, Xiaohua's figure was still faintly discernible, but his hand firmly held the woman's hand, blocking her behind him, and said coldly, "You think that because you're hiding in my master's body, I'm not willing to destroy my master's illusion? It's a pity that you only know how to look for my master in my memories, but you don't know that when I finally called out to my master, he had just condensed his core, and his appearance had already returned to his youth. And my memory of his old appearance is too deep. Whenever I think of master, I will think of his stern appearance, and I will never think of his youthful appearance. So that's how it is. Helplessly, the two halves of the body swayed back and forth in the air. From time to time, bubbles of demonic energy would fly out from the two halves of the body, but the entire devil nation was still deathly silent. Although the moonlight was still faintly flowing in the devil nation, even the previously brilliant heart shape was beginning to dim. Could it be, you already knew? The heavenly demon probed. Is it really as you said, that you've been accumulating power to counterattack in this cycle of karma for countless years? Strands of essence chi floated over from the devil nation, but because of Xiaohua's existence, these essence chi didn't fall into the heavenly demon's mouth, but instead instinctively fell into Xiaohua's body. Unfortunately, this essence chi was so little that Xiaohua's nothingness didn't change much. That's right. Xiaohua took a breath and nodded. The first time I woke up, I realized it, but I only had a moment to resist. I was powerless to do anything. Fortunately, after a few times, I realized that I had a secret technique that I could accumulate and use, so every time I woke up, I would use my magic power to accumulate the secret technique. Unfortunately, your supernatural power is too boundless. Even after accumulating power for countless years, I could only accumulate enough power to say one sentence and the strength to raise my arm. Speaking of this, Xiaohua said indifferently, the Devil Emperor doesn't have such a powerful supernatural power. If you're not the Devil Emperor, who are you? Damn it. The heavenly demon was a little regretful. With just a sentence and the strength to raise your arm, you can break the illusion that I painstakingly created? I really don't believe it. The one who defeated you is not me. Xiaohua said word by word. The one who defeated you is the love of the human race. Behind me, there is a sea of love that you can't imagine. This sea of love is enough to destroy all the demons. Ha! The heavenly demon laughed wildly. It's just that the moon beast is meddling in other people's business. If I sneak into the moon world one day, I'll skin it, pull out its tendons, cut its meat and barbecue it. Now you should take care of yourself first. Even if you broke my illusion, do you still have the strength to fight back? Xiaohua smiled strangely and replied, Why don't you guess? Seeing that Xiaohua was so calm, the heavenly demon was a little speechless, as if the situation had become awkward. Behind Xiaohua was naturally not the real Xue Xue, but Yu Mingxin from the fragrant cult. At this time, Yu Mingxin was holding Xiaohua's hand, which seemed to be neither there nor there. Listening to the conversation between Xiaohua and the heavenly demon, she had long forgotten her surprise of appearing here for no reason. She looked at Xiaohua's almost transparent body, which was still like a mountain in front of her, and tears fell down uncontrollably. She really wanted to dig out her own flesh and give it to Xiaohua. However, she didn't dare to move. If even Xiaohua couldn't deal with the enemy, how could she be his opponent? However, she had already made up her mind. As long as Xiaohua opened his mouth, she would definitely die for Xiaohua. At this time, Xiaohua smiled and said to the heavenly demon in a low voice, You should tell me who you are. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to say it in the future. The heavenly demon sneered, With just a trace of your profound chi, do you think you can go against me? Why do you think I'm talking so much nonsense with you? Xiaohua asked back meaningfully. The heavenly demon didn't pay attention to him. His whole body was trembling as he replied, Who knows? Maybe you're a chatterbox? I'm waiting for my doppelganger. Xiaohua smiled, looking very honest. The heavenly demon was not moved. He looked at Xiaohua with interest. Then why don't you show me your doppelganger? Ah. Xiaohua laughed, then said in a low voice, Mingxin, I'm sorry. Yu Mingxin stared blankly. Suddenly, her palm tightened. A huge suction force came from Xiaohua's hand. The magic power in her body, as well as something she didn't understand, were all sucked out. However, why would Yu Mingxin care about this? She thought with incomparable sweetness in her heart, He called me Mingxin. The heavenly demon seemed to have understood something and said in shock, You can actually use magic? The path of Taoism is broad and profound. How can you demons know? Xiaohua proudly smiled and waved his left hand again. Woo! A black light flashed, and the devil kingdom that the heavenly demon was barely supporting, as well as his own body, finally collapsed. Fuck, this sovereign's biggest mistake was to not let your devil blade murder stay by your side. The heavenly demon's body collapsed, and he hurriedly turned into black gas. When he was preparing to abandon everything in front of him and escape, he still didn't forget to regret. That's because you were greedy. You have to get the devil blade first. Xiao Hua's devil blade surged out a myriad of devil chi and black flames, pouncing towards the entire space. He was still sneering. Following the collapse of the heavenly demon's body, everything in the devil kingdom, no matter if it was the devil patterns, Sanskrit chants, or fluctuations, also collapsed. Even outside the devil kingdom, the star moon palace in the void distorted and collapsed at the same time. The remaining profound chi inside turned into brilliance and fell into Xiao Hua's body. Xiao Hua didn't stop. His figure shook, and phoenix body Xiao Hua, dragon vein Xiao Hua, bone tempering Xiao Hua, and devil spirit Xiao Hua also turned into phantoms and flew out, rushing towards the heavenly demon. Moreover, at this time, outside the devil kingdom that was split open. Rumble. A huge rumbling sound rose again. 9 huge cauldrons appeared in the night sky, and the 5-colored true chi turned into 5-colored clouds, covering the space within 1,000 miles. This was nothing. An 8th-grade lotus throne surged with supreme Buddhist light and hung above the 9 cauldrons. Inside the Buddhist light, 10,000 Buddhas cried out in grief. Each and every one of them opened their compassionate eyes and looked at the collapsing devil kingdom. Among the 7 colors, a bright green color floated there like a light smoke. At the tip of the brush, a green vitality appeared like a seed. Soul cultivator Xiao Hua, Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua, and Buddha Bodhi respectively stood in 3 different directions of the heavenly demon, their faces expressionless and on guard. I really didn't lie to you. Heavenly demon? Xiao Hua said rather innocently, no matter what, we are old acquaintances. How could I lie to you? I am indeed waiting for my 3 doppelgangers to arrive. How could the heavenly demon talk nonsense with Xiao Hua? The only regret in his heart was that when he was hit by the devil blade, he didn't hesitate to abandon Xiao Hua, no longer maintaining the devil kingdom, and hurriedly escaped. Now that Xiao Hua's doppelgangers had arrived, he was hit again. Not only did Xiao Hua's profound chi have to escape from his body, even his heavenly demon body was in danger. The heavenly demon's body swayed, turned into a supreme demonic body, and rushed out of the devil kingdom. Boom! Unfortunately, just as he came in contact with the brilliance of the 9 cauldrons, he was immediately blasted down. However, the heavenly demon only flipped in midair and flew to another place. Namo Maitreya Buddha. With a Buddhist chant, the phantom of an 8th-grade lotus throne fell down and destroyed 10% of the heavenly demon's body. Roar! The heavenly demon screamed, and his figure strangely disappeared. Chapter 41:20. Seeing this, soul cultivator Xiao Hua sneered, turning the void into a void again. Heavenly demon is indeed a heavenly demon. While speaking, soul cultivator Xiao Hua opened his mouth and tens of millions of green seal characters rushed out. As Bai pointed at them, the green seal characters immediately disappeared. Boom boom. In the rumbling sound, green lines rolled and appeared, revealing the heavenly demon's figure. At this time, the heavenly demon's figure shrank by another 10%. Formation. Hearing Xiao Hua's cold shout, the 9 cauldrons once again let out a rumbling sound, rolling in the air one after another. The 9 cauldrons spewed out thick 9-colored light pillars, sealing off the heavenly demon and even the collapsed devil nation. Fum. Buddha Bodhi raised his hand and took out the 10,000 Buddha paintings Kasaya. The Kasaya instantly became empty and tens of thousands of Buddha lords appeared in the air, blocking the space outside the 9 cauldrons. The 8th-grade lotus also broke down, turning into 8 petals and falling among the 10,000 Buddha lords, urging Buddha light to force the heavenly demon. Kacha! Soul cultivator Xiao Hua didn't have a soul weapon to kill, but with a wave of his hand, 13 huge green seal characters flew out and turned into huge thunderbolts. These thunderbolts flashed and condensed into the appearance of 13 gods. These thunderbolts flashed in the air like pythons, trapping the heavenly demon in the center. Every time the thunderbolts came with the sound of gods and ghosts, the heavenly demon couldn't help but tremble. Refine. Xiaohua didn't stop at all. He chanted the incantation and the 3 doppelgangers urged their divine abilities. The Buddha light mixed with innate true qi entangled with the green seal characters and surged violently towards the heavenly demon. Woo-woo. Everything fell into the heavenly demon and the devil country. An indescribable sobbing sound came out and the whole space began to tremble. Even Yu Mingxin, who was hiding behind Xiaohua, turned pale and showed extreme fear in her eyes. Green-robed fellow Taoist. Xiaohua smiled faintly and pulled the green-robed Xiaohua out of the space, shouting, "Please send Yu Mingxin into the Kunlun mirror to rest." Alright. Green-robed Xiaohua stayed in the space because of his heavy injuries, so he didn't fall into the heavenly demon's illusion. He agreed and took out the Kunlun mirror. With a flash of light, Yu Mingxian was sucked into the mirror. Yu Mingxian pulled her hand out of Xiaohua's hand. Her heart felt empty, as if she had lost something. The heavenly devil was being refined in the Buddha, Confucian, and Soul formations. Every time a wisp of black smoke was released, a corresponding devil pattern from the devil kingdom would fall into it. Then, layers of devil shadows would appear. The demonic shadow was filled with killing, peace, savagery, love, hatred, and so on. It was as if everything in the world was contained in this small wisp of black gas and demonic patterns. When these demonic figures disappeared, the black gas and demonic patterns also disappeared, and a wisp of extremely pure essence appeared within the 3 formations. Xiaohua opened his mouth, and the profound qi entered his body. His illusory figure began to solidify. After a full 81 days of refining, Xiaohua's figure finally recovered. At the same time, Dragon Vein Xiaohua, Bone Tempering Xiaohua, Phoenix Body Xiaohua, and Devil Spirit Xiaohua also recovered. Looking at the heavenly devil inside the formation, it was no longer as incorporeal as before. It had turned into a slightly turbid black fog. This black fog still had many devil patterns dancing with the formation. Xiaohua's gaze swept across the black fog and he said, "Fellow Taoists, from the previous demonic shadow, we can see that this heavenly devil's origin is not small. It used illusions to lure and kill countless cultivators. Now we have taken back our profound qi. However, there is still a lot of profound qi hidden in the heavenly devil's body. It is not good to stay here for a long time. I want to take the heavenly devil into the space and refine it. After I refine all of its profound qi, I will share it with fellow Taoists. How about it?" "Good." The several clones nodded in agreement. Thus, Xiaohua waved his hands and hundreds of lightning bolts flashed outside the formation. These lightning bolts were like surging pythons that surrounded the formation. Then, they gradually shrank until they were only a few feet in size. Xiaohua's mind rolled and the lightning balls immediately fell into the space. Whew! Not only did Xiaohua let out a sigh of relief, but all the clones also let out sighs of relief. Although the previous 3 formations trapped the heavenly devil, everyone didn't dare to relax. Although the heavenly devil itself didn't have the power to attack, it was good at transformation and knew how to bewitch. The slightest carelessness could cause cultivators to fall into an illusion and kill themselves. And if the heavenly devil fell into Xiaohua's space, even if it was 10 times stronger, it wouldn't be able to escape. However, after a moment, Xiaohua faintly smiled and said, "Fellow Taoists, don't be too relaxed. Our space is also a space, and it must be related to the devil realm where the heavenly devil came from. Before I completely refine the heavenly devil, we can't be careless." "Big brother," Devil Spirit Xiaohua hurriedly shouted, "little brother can devour the heavenly devil and get everything big brother knows. Similarly, little brother can also get his magical power from devouring the heavenly devil." "Don't worry." Xiaohua nodded. "After I rest for a while, I will find a way to separate the heavenly devil's devil qi from the devil pattern and give you what you need." compensate you for the loss in the illusion. Fellow Taoist. Bone Honing Xiaohua hurriedly shouted, you were the first to kill me in the illusion. Xiaohua angrily glared at the Bone Honing Xiaohua, then looked at the phoenix-bodied Xiaohua and the others. He said word by word, although the dreamland is just a dreamland, it really gave us a wake-up call. You and I are from the same roots. Why are you so anxious to kill each other? When I wasn't ready, I rashly separated my primordial spirit, which caused the great calamity of today's primordial spirit battle. We must take this as a warning. Before the hidden danger of the primordial spirit separation is eliminated, we must not have any more twists and turns. And we must remember, we are one person, no matter when, even if there are other changes when I ascend in the future, we must never be enemies with each other. Good. We understand. The avatars agreed in unison. Hee, fellow Taoist, please take a look. Hearing Xiaohua being so serious, Confucian cultivator Xiaohua waved his hand, took out a spatial ring, and handed it to Xiaohua. Although Xiaohua could read Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's thoughts, at this time, he already understood that avatars were avatars. He had to respect them first, only then could they truly become independent cultivators. Therefore, Xiaohua took the spatial ring and checked it with his divine sense. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. Is this the orthodoxy of the 8 great sects? Yes. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua said with a smile, in the 10 years that fellow Taoist disappeared, this one, the little monk, and fellow Taoist soul cultivator assisted General Sun in the southwest border, rescuing the 8 great sects from the siege of the devil race. These sects were the same as the White Cloud Temple's sect master. They all wanted to use their orthodoxy to exchange with our Fortune Gates sect protecting formation. Deferentially, this one will do his best to exchange with them. Ha, good. Xiaohua put away the spatial ring and said with a smile, the sects of the ruins specialize in cultivating the primordial spirit. Their cultivation technique will definitely be useful to us. Moreover, the ruins is the upper realm. Their orthodoxy must have something that our Tao Gate can use as a reference. This transaction is really worth it. Speaking of this, Xiaohua looked at the 3 avatars and asked tentatively, there are 10 sects in the southwest border. 10 years ago, when I was fighting with the Devil Emperor, the Devil race had besieged these 10 sects. Now, our Fortune Gate has helped 8 sects escape from the Devil race. What about the other 2 sects? What is the situation of our Fortune Gate's disciples? This. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua hesitated for a moment, then said, it's a long story, we should return to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Soaring Dragon Mountain Range? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, not only did you move the Fortune Gate to the ruins, you even changed the ruins mountain range to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. It's not a matter of moving or not. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua answered, our Fortune Gate's disciples are fighting for the ruins. We need a place to stay. We can't enter the 8 sects foundations as we wish, but finding a barren mountain range to stay is still easy. Moreover, we don't plan to leave the Fortune Gate's descendants in the ruins. Many other sects' disciples wanted to join our Fortune Gate, but we didn't agree. Xiaohua nodded, then looked around and ordered, fellow Taoists, we will search carefully within 10,000 li radius. Don't let the heavenly devil's avatar escape. The various avatars were already prepared. Hearing Xiaohua's order, each of them executed their divine abilities and carefully searched within 10,000 li radius, whether it was in the void or in midair. Xiaohua even opened his delusion breaker law eye to search inch by inch. Sure enough, in a short while, the heavenly devil's avatars hidden in the void were found one by one, and all of them were devoured by Xiaohua. After searching 10,000 li radius, they found a total of 8 avatars. Not daring to be careless, Xiaohua's avatars once again searched 10,000 li radius until they found no more avatars. However, Xiaohua stood in the void, looking at the place where the Star Moon Palace had been. Although everything seemed like a dream, it was deeply imprinted in his mind. He sighed softly, knowing that the heavenly devil had been planning for this place for more than a decade. It was impossible for him to not have a backup plan. Moreover, the heavenly devil must have left some avatars in the sky of freedom. His divine abilities were limited. It was impossible for him to completely exterminate the heavenly devil. Xiao Hua snorted coldly. Even if I don't refine the heavenly devil, he won't let me go in the future. Then why don't I refine him? My divine abilities have yet to reach major completion, but when my cultivation becomes stronger, would I still be afraid of him? Heavenly devil, heavenly devil, I'm looking forward to it. When will you come to see me again? Tribulation? After saying that, Xiao Hua's figure turned into a rainbow, flying into the distance with the scholarly cultivator Xiao Hua. In the first light of dawn, within the dewdrops on a blade of grass, a wisp of dim black qi, less than an inch long, trembled slightly as the sunlight shone on it, like a trembling eyelash. When the dewdrop's water vapor dissipated, the black qi also hid in the void, slowly disappearing. The heavenly devil's ninth avatar finally escaped Xiao Hua's search. It was unknown whether he had returned to the Dazizai heavenly devil kingdom or if he had other plans. Chapter 41-21. In a bamboo forest, under a bamboo pavilion, Xiao Hua sat cross-legged at the center of the pavilion under the scorching sun. Scholarly cultivator Xiao Hua and his other avatars were not present. Only Sun Jian stood respectfully at the side. On the other side of the mountain peak where the bamboo forest was, there was another majestic mountain range that stretched across the land, resembling a sleeping dragon. Above the mountain range, 2 lightning boats were hovering in the air, emitting faint rumbling noises. Vaguely, the Fortune Gate disciples on the lightning boats were flying around, either setting up defenses or patrolling the area. Amidst their orderly movements, there was an austere atmosphere. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes. Although he did not release his divine sense, he saw everything with his eyes. It had been 3 days since he returned to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. His avatars had temporarily returned to his body to rest. After all, he had been refining the heavenly devil's essence in his space, and his avatars would be nourished as long as they were in his body. In these 3 days, Sun Jian had also reported the situation at the Fortune Gate and the southwest border to Xiao Hua. Only now did Xiao Hua know that when he had chased after the Archdevil Emperor with his 3 avatars, he had fallen into the heavenly devil's meticulously laid-out illusion. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua, Soul cultivator Xiao Hua, and Buddha Subhuti had lost contact with him, and their search was fruitless. After a short discussion, they had immediately caught up to the lightning boat and explained the matter to Sun Jian. Sun Jian turned pale with fright and wanted to turn around and search for Xiao Hua, but scholarly cultivator Xiao Hua and the others knew that although Xiao Hua was missing, his life was not in danger. Moreover, the heavenly devil emperor was powerful, and only Sun Jian's 3 avatars could restrain him. The other Fortune Gate disciples were no match for the heavenly devil emperor, so they stopped Sun Jian. Sun Jian then discussed with the White Cloud Monastery's disciples. Since the heavenly devil emperor had attacked the 10 southwestern sects at the same time, the other sects must have been surrounded by the heavenly devil emperor. They hoped that the White Cloud Monastery and Fortune Gate disciples would join hands to rescue the other sects. The White Cloud Monastery understood that without the lips, the teeth would feel cold. Sect Chief Bai Shan followed Sun Jian and led the 2 sects' disciples to the nearest White Cloud Monastery's Light Melody Palace to rescue the heavenly devil emperor. Sure enough, the Light Melody Palace was also trapped by the heavenly devil emperor's formation and could not send any disciples to ask for help. The White Cloud Monastery and Fortune Gate's disciples' arrival was akin to sending charcoal in snowy weather. After several months of fierce battle, the 3 sects finally repelled the heavenly devil emperor. Moreover, what made Sun Jian feel at ease was that other than the demon monarch, the demon emperor who disappeared at the same time as Xiao Hua did not appear. Following that, the White Cloud Monastery, Soft Melody Palace, and Fortune Gate's disciples joined hands to rescue Fu Ridge. In this manner, the White Cloud Monastery, Soft Melody Palace, Fu Ridge, Curved Cloud Pavilion, Bright Dawn Hall, Jingbo Mountain, Zhanhong Faction, and Water Cloud Sect were rescued from the Devil Clan siege. In the last few years, the White Cloud Monastery, Soft Melody Palace, and the rest of the 8 sects did not send out all their forces. Instead, they sent out their elite disciples to assist the Fortune Gate. They once again focused their attention on their sect's defenses. Under the guidance of Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua, the 8 sects laid down the Pleiades' devil-devouring immortal formation at their respective mountain gates to guard against the devil race's invasion. Of course, during these 10 years, the devil race had returned to besiege the Soft Tune Palace and the other sections. In the end, all of them were defeated by the Pleiades' devil-devouring immortal formation. However, the cruelty of war was not to be underestimated. After more than a decade of war, more than half of the 100,000 Fortune Gate's disciples had fallen. Currently, there were less than 50,000 disciples guarding the 2 lightning boats. Xiaohua flew all the way back. Because he had just recovered, he did not have the time to investigate the wandering souls in the space. Now that he had heard Sun Jian's report, he could already imagine the hardships of the war. He retracted his gaze from the lightning boats and sighed, "Sun Jian, it's been hard on you this time." This Xiao thanks the general on behalf of the Fortune Gate's disciples. Sun Jian was terrified. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Master Xiao, although this one is a Confucian cultivator and an immortal palace's true monarch, this one has received a lot of help from Master Xiao. The Fortune Gate's disciples also respect this one. This one can lead the Fortune Gate's disciples to fight for the human race in the ancient ruins. This is 100 times better than leading immortal soldiers and immortal generals to kill the Tao Gate's cultivators on the hidden immortal mainland. This one is willing to do all of this. Master Xiao does not need to thank me for this." Xiao Hua nodded and said, "It's good that you have such intentions. This old man will definitely not treat you unfairly." "Yes, this one understands," Sun Jian solemnly replied. Since Xiao Hua's return, Sun Jian felt as if Xiao Hua had been reborn. That aura of a saint on the inside and a monarch on the outside was undoubtedly revealed in his every action. Sun Jian could not help but feel like he was looking at a high mountain. In his entire life, he had only felt this kind of feeling in front of one person, and that was the immortal emperor. Now that this feeling appeared again, Sun Jian believed without hesitation that Xiao Hua would become another immortal emperor in the future. Of course, Xiao Hua did not know what Sun Jian was thinking. He was a little puzzled and asked, "Could it be that in these 10 years, that devil emperor never appeared?" "Indeed, he never appeared," Sun Jian nodded. "Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so easy for us to rescue the 8 sects. That's strange." Xiao Hua was a little bewildered. Until now, he still did not know when he had fallen into the Sky Devil's ambush. He also did not know if the Devil Emperor he was chasing at that time was the real Devil Emperor. Xiao Huan naturally did not tell Sun Jian about his encounter with the Sky Devil in detail. At this moment, Sun Jian carefully said, "Presumably, Master Xiao injured him that day, and he saw that Master Zhao's 3 old friends were here. He knew that he was not a match for them, so he did not dare to appear. And that's the only way I can think of it." Xiao Hua nodded. "My 3 old friends are the Devil Emperor's nemesis, so it is normal that the Devil Emperor does not dare to appear. Also, the Ruins Conference Hall only sent 20,000 disciples and no other assistants?" "Yes." Sun Jian nodded. "Other than the 20,000 disciples and the basic supplies used by the Ruins Army, the conference hall does not have any other assistance. However, according to the information obtained by White Cloud Monastery and the other sects, the Ruins' current situation is worrying. The conference hall sending 20,000 disciples is already not bad. Oh, they also sent the conference hall's military order, inviting Master Xiao to the conference hall." As he said this, Sun Jian took out a purple token and handed it to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua glanced at it, then casually handed it back to Sun Jian. "This old man doesn't know how to arrange troops, so why should I go to the conference hall? Do you want me to bicker with them? If the conference hall needs it, General Sun can go there yourself." "Yes, this one understands." Sun Jian did not dare to decline and accepted the token. After pondering for a moment, Xiao Hua asked again, "Is the 50,000 Fortune Gate disciples enough?" Sun Jian answered without hesitation, "Other than the 50,000 Fortune Gate disciples, There are 20,000 conference hall disciples under my command. Other than that, the White Cloud Monastery and the other 8 sects sent another 80,000 disciples. However, my Fortune Gate's disciples use the lightning boats as the formation base, so other sects' disciples cannot help. Therefore, although there are more people, their battle strength is lacking, so this one did not dare to make a decision on the 2 most difficult battles at the Snow Chopping Gate and Yong and Mountain. Then, Xiaohua nodded. Then this old man will give you another 100,000 disciples. So many? Sun Jian was shocked. He knew that Xiaohua would send out more disciples, but he did not expect it to be 100,000. Xiaohua did not explain. He flew up into the air and took out the Kunlun mirror. As the mirror vibrated, 100,000 disciples flew out and lined up neatly in the air. General Sun. Xiaohua raised a finger and said, I'll leave these disciples to you today. This old man has just recovered from a serious injury, so I need to enter seclusion for the time being. The remaining 2 sects will depend on you and these disciples to rescue them. Of course, you can rest assured that on the day the army departs, this old man will send 3 of his good friends to accompany you. Many thanks, Teacher Xiao. Sun Jian was overjoyed. He bowed respectfully and ordered the lightning boat to come over. Xiaohua said, while this old man is in seclusion, if there is nothing important, there is no need to report to me. You can decide for yourself. Also, Fortune Gate disciples are not to approach this old man's seclusion area. Yes, this one understands. Sun Jian respectfully replied. This one will give the order immediately. Good. Go and train these disciples. Xiaohua nodded. Let Lu Yi and the others come over. Naturally, Lu Yi and the other disciples were the happiest with Xiaohua's return, but they were Sun Jian's subordinates. Without Sun Jian's orders, they did not dare to come over. Now that Xiaohua had given the order, Sun Jian naturally had to let them pass. In just a short while, Fu Jiwen and the other personal disciples, as well as the Black Bear, Golden Eagle and White Lion, flew over to greet Xiaohua. Xiaohua had already seen that all his disciples were present, and was overjoyed. Looking at these disciples who had experienced the flames of war, their temperament was completely different from before, he was even more gratified. Wu Tian, Fu Jiwen, and the others roughly recounted their experiences in the past 10 years. Since it was war, there was naturally blood. Although Xiaohua's disciples did not die, injuries were unavoidable. Even Yuanya was almost killed by the devil army. In short, these disciples had experienced more life and death situations in the past 10 years than several thousand years. These life and death experiences were extremely beneficial to their cultivation, and everyone had made considerable progress. After listening, Xiaohua gave them a few words of encouragement and gave them a large number of medicinal pills refined by Xiaogua. Then, he asked them to stay behind and give them face-to-face guidance. A few days later, after passing on the strength, Xiaohua gave them the witch dolls refined by soul cultivator Xiaohua, and ordered them to keep them close to their bodies. Of course, Xiaohua did not explain the use of these witch dolls, so as to avoid these disciples from slacking off. After the group of disciples thanked Xiaohua and left, Xiaohua waved his sleeve and his figure disappeared. Light smoke slowly rose from the bamboo forest in the distance, completely covering the scenery of the mountain peak. Xiaohua's figure landed in the bamboo forest, but did not directly return to the bamboo pavilion. Instead, he frowned and looked at the green bamboos that pierced straight into the sky. These green bamboos were different from the ones Xiaohua had seen before. The bamboo joints were very long, at least several feet long, and the connections between the joints were also thick. As for the bamboo leaves, they were small and even somewhat oval. When the wind blew, not only did a kind of fragrance hit his face, but the rustling sound made Xiaohua feel as if it was the sound of nature. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.